It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
The Eagles win Super Bowl 59. The Saints absolutely hire the Eagles offensive coordinator Kellen Moore as their new head coach. And the Jets tell Aaron Rodgers this past week that they're moving on. And much, much more on a new show of Job in the Mouth. Jets are going to give him a significant. They're going to have a ton of money to spend. Why not put it in one of the top 3 offensive players in the league? We're going to be looking at Aaron Judge and saying that he can't win the big game. Michael Jordan said, I played 82 games. You don't see LeBron doing that.
This is a game where you got to go perform.
I told you, Giant fans, and Saquon Barkley, at this point,
I'm gonna fight them all. A 7-nation army couldn't hold me back. They're gonna rip it off. Taking time.
Say whatever you want about Patrick Mahomes. He's the best quarterback in the NFL. Really?
And I'm talking to myself at night because I can't forget. Back and forth through my mind behind a cigarette. And the name's coming from my eyes. Can't get it alone.
Hello for a new show of Jabba and the Mouth. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back from New Orleans. No more Super Bowl 59 as we head to the offseason, as the draft's around the corner, the combine, and much, much more for the NFL. And baseball is 40 days away, ladies and gentlemen. This is a new show of Jabba in the Mouth. I'm your host, Errol Marks, my co-host, Jabba Chamberlain, and Speedy Petey. Executive producer, Mr. Aaron Fishman, our sports minute, Tommy Scoops, or Tommy Poops, as we call him now. And ladies and gentlemen, Mr. himself, Mr. known of himself, Mr. Owen, the man, the myth, the legend, the Tick Rick. Go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including Jabba in the Mouth every single Mondays and Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. All you have to do to tune in and check out our local listings for all our shows is go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. It was wonderful. It was humid. It was New Orleans. And ladies and gentlemen, we had a lot of fun. We met a lot of interesting people at Radio Row, and we have a lot of stories. I'm telling you, a lot of stories to tell. Maybe not tonight, but throughout the next couple of weeks, I'm sure everybody's going to be intrigued to hear some of the crazy stories. But it was fun. It was interesting. And Speedy, it was your second time on an airplane.
Second time in an airplane, and the first time in another time zone altogether. It was
well, you're always in another time zone. We all know that.
I never was.
You're always in
Never.
another time zone.
No.
Every single day you wake up, you're in another time zone.
What?
You always wake up and you're in Speedy land. You're in Speedy time.
That's not math.
That is math, ladies and gentlemen. That is my math to you. So I'm just letting you know you're always in your own time zone. So that's a lie. You're lying to people right now as we speak. Jabba, what's up, man?
Not how you guys doing?
We're good, man. Obviously, did you lose some weight?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've been on the toilet all day.
There you go. I mean, maybe it's the beard. Maybe the shaving and taking some of that quad.
Yeah, it's down. I trimmed it.
Yes. Maybe that's the reason why you look like you lost a little bit of weight.
So,
I was trying to give you a compliment. You just threw yourself under the bus again. So there you go. That's your fault. I'm just trying to help you here. But
if you can't throw yourself under the bus, nobody else can.
Oh, well, I throw myself under the bus all the time. I like to enjoy myself making fun of myself, but it was fun. I really did enjoy it. We got a chance to hang out. I got to meet Aaron for the first time, like in person, face to face. So that was fun. I got to meet Nick Goody. Goody was an interesting character, and we had a lot of fun. We got a chance to eat some good food, meet some interesting people. It was fun. And then we got to go out for a little bit. A couple of nights we got to check out the the French Quarters and the main highways and main craziness of all the people. We also went to Bourbon Street, and we have a story which I know Speedy's not going to want to talk about, but that's a whole nother story that I don't want to get into because I think Speedy's just going to he's going to dream. He had nightmares after that, right, Speedy? He doesn't even want to acknowledge it. Jabba was one of the funniest things, but it wasn't, but it was. But
How many gin and tonics deep was he?
I don't know about
I didn't
gin
drink
and
any gin.
tonic.
I didn't drink any gin.
I don't know if it was gin and tonics, but there was a lot of interesting things that happened to him on that Bourbon Street. So Speedy got scared and almost ran for his pants, right, Speedy?
My pants were on.
We hope. If you went upstairs,
They were on.
They
were on.
If they went upstairs,
They were on.
if he went upstairs, they probably would have been off, if you know what I mean.
Did you see any nipples, Speedy?
Not even sort of.
That's a lie.
Sexual crap.
At 9 o'clock, we'll be talking to the Athletic senior MLB writer for the first time on Jabba in the Mouth. Ken Rosenthal, very popular, the biggest in baseball when it comes to analyzing baseball and what's going on in baseball. So this is a treat, and I know a lot of fans are going to enjoy Kenny. I actually know Kenny's cousin, so that'll be interesting to mention that. But Ken Rosenthal, for the first time on Jabba in the Mouth, he will be joining us. So that will be fun at 9 o'clock. So let's get into it. The Eagles blew out the Chiefs 40-22 to win their second Super Bowl in franchise history. Devontae Smith became the fifth player in football history to win a Heisman, a national championship, and a Super Bowl. The Eagles defense got 6 sacks, tied for second most in Super Bowl history. And edge rusher Josh Sweat and defensive tackle Milton Williams had 2 each. Rookie Cooper DeJean got an interception return for a touchdown, his first career pick and first pick 6, and Patrick Mahomes has thrown in his playoff career. The Eagles did not blitz at all, which is the first time in Super Bowl history and the first time in Vic Fangio's long coaching career that this has happened. The Chiefs did not cross midfield until the third quarter and only had 1 first down in the entire first half. Jalen Hurts was named Super Bowl MVP with 221 yards, 2 touchdowns passing, and 72 rushing yards and a touchdown. Well, that game was so lopsided, I don't think anybody was expecting. I will say this. It was fun to watch the Kansas City Chiefs go down in flames. No jumping for joy of Taylor Swift in the press box. Nobody else in the press box. I'm talking about, I don't know, Ryan Reynolds or his wife or anybody jumping for joy because the Chiefs were not winning. There was no Donald Trump. I mean, Donald Trump was there, but we didn't see a lot of the camera on top of him. There was just all-American beatdown by the Philadelphia Eagles. And I will say this, everything that we watched on Sunday night was definitely a big-time punch in the ref's face and the NFL's face. And I'll tell you why. When I watched that game, especially in the first quarter, there were a lot of questionable calls, especially the referee calls, obviously from the Philadelphia getting that call, that offensive passing interference that I remember. And the Kansas City Chiefs looked like everything was going their way early in the game, but it didn't. And I thought watching that game, it told me one thing and one thing only, that the Eagles were the better team automatically going into that game. Now, we interviewed a lot of people at the, Radio Row, and a lot of people had questions what Eagle team was going to show up and what Kansas City Chief team was going to show up as far as their coaching. If you know the story, if you look at Andy Reid's career, usually every time he gets the ball in the first quarter, especially the first time he touches the ball, they usually score or kick a field goal. Well, on Sunday night, they didn't. As a matter of fact, they didn't score until the third quarter. They got shut out in the first half. They completely got, I believe, disposed of. And I look at many different things, and everybody says, what made the Eagles just dominate that game? And everybody's going to say defense wins championships. And Saquon Barkley didn't have one of those good games. And that's because what the Kansas City Chiefs did and what Spagnuolo did is he took Saquon out. And he wanted the other players to beat him. They wanted A.J. Brown to beat him. They wanted Devontae Smith beating him or Dallas Goedert. But the guy that really beat them was Jalen Hurts. That's who beat them. Jalen Hurts stood in the pocket. The offensive line protected him so very well. And when he needed to get out of the pocket and make a play, he absolutely did. Jalen Hurts, to me, completely outplayed Patrick Mahomes. But if you go back in time a couple of years ago when the Kansas City Chiefs beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl, and if you remember, I believe Jalen Hurts was playing better than Patrick Mahomes. If you look at the numbers, they're not far apart from one another. And Jalen Hurts in the big game over the last few years, and especially, well, they haven't been in the Super Bowl since then, but when the Eagles needed to make a play, Jalen Hurts had a big part of those plays. Now, I watched the game, and I do believe it was complete dominance. They couldn't stop Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter was absolutely dominating the line of scrimmage, and they were double and triple teaming him. And what did that do? It opened up the edges. It opened up Josh Sweat. It opened up Milton Williams, and they completely caused havoc. And the secondary of the Philadelphia Eagles, Jajon and Mitchell, and then Slay, everybody was on it. They were on the ball. They were ball hawks throughout the game. It was sensational to watch. It really was. And Patrick Mahomes, as soon as he got hit early in the first quarter, you can tell and you can see it in his face that he was scared. You saw it in his face that every time he stepped into the pocket, there was an eagle or two eagles or three eagles. And that's what was so amazing. You bring up, obviously, the blitz packages that we've seen, obviously, Fangio do for many, many years. He likes the blitz. And if you look at the Eagles all season long, Fangio did not blitz as much as he used to do with the Broncos, what he did with Chicago. He was more of a guy that would brush four guys and make the linebackers step back, use them in the open field, use them to protect, obviously, the tight ends. It was fun to watch. Fangio was between Andy Reid and Fangio outsmarted the great Andy Reid. Andy Reid had no answers for Vic Fangio's defense. And what I loved about what Fangio did in the game is if you watch the game plan in the first half, it was completely different in the second half. And I just don't know if Patrick Mahomes was comfortable at any point of the game. The only time he was comfortable when the game was over. The last 7-8 minutes of the game when the Eagles decided not to play their starters, to take their starters out. They took Dejon out. They took Mitchell out. They took Jalen Hurts out in the last 5 minutes of the game because the game was over. Patrick Mahomes was uncomfortable. I don't think I've ever seen a game that Patrick Mahomes looked as bad as he has. He has not looked as bad in a playoff game that I've ever seen. He was horrible. He didn't look like a starting quarterback in the NFL, and it just seemed like his head was not fully in the game. Now, I don't know what the Kansas City Chiefs were thinking. I don't know if they thought that this was going to just completely be a complete domination of what we've seen over the last couple of years. The Kansas City Chiefs always get the calls. The refs give them all these calls. It didn't happen in this game. After the first quarter and people were booing the referees on some of the more questionable calls, it really, every single call started to sway on the Eagles side. And the Kansas City Chiefs were getting frustrated because you were seeing McDuffie make terrible plays in the open field and terrible penalty calls on him. We've seen Jones. Jones got hurt early in the game. I don't think he was himself throughout the game after he got hurt with his neck situation. There was just a lot of misjudging plays that we watched throughout the game that you can question the Kansas City Chiefs. And Spagnuolo, who is a great game planner, he is one of the best when it comes defensively. He had no answers for Jalen Hurts. None. They had an answer for Saquon. They had no answers for A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. But the guy that they just kept, every time he moved out of the pocket and he needed to make a play with his legs, he did it. Jalen Hurts made every play with his legs. He had 72 rushing yards and a touchdown. He completely dominated on the run. And they didn't need Saquon Barkley if he was getting, he was getting open runs and open looks in the open field. It was incredible. It really was. And And unfortunately, Travis Kelce looked old. I don't know if anybody watched the game. Travis Kelce looked like a deer in the headlights. He had no idea what was going on the football field. You saw Patrick Mahomes and him talking on the sidelines. We saw Hopkins. How many times have you seen a guy like Hopkins, one of the best ball hawks we've seen in the last 10 years as a wide receiver, not catch the ball, drop the ball as much as he did? Juju Smith-Schuster, after the first quarter, he was a no-show. Brown, Hollywood Brown that everybody was talking about. What an addition in the offseason. Where was he? I think he had 1 or 2 catches the whole game. Nobody was getting open. And I'm going to tell you this right now. At some points, Kansas City had some open guys. You watch the open field. I was just so shocked that Patrick Mahomes was so scared. He was trying to get rid of the ball as quick as he can. And he couldn't see it. And every time there was a lane, there was an eagle hand up. I mean, it was unbelievable. It was such a good game plan by Vic Fangio. And I believe the MVP of that game was Vic Fangio. The way he structured his defense throughout the game to put pressure, Dijon, putting him in space, making sure that his strengths and Dijon's strengths throughout college and so far early in his NFL career is putting him in the open field and letting him make plays. And he reminds me a lot like somebody that we've seen in the Super Bowl before. So I just, you know who he reminds me of, by the way, Speedy? Jim Leonard. Remember Jim Leonard?
Yeah.
He reminds me a lot like a young Jim Leonard, just a little bit better. And a lot faster. He's that kind of player. I was shocked. I was shocked that this was a complete blowout as quick as it was. At one point, it was 27-0? Mm-hmm. It was just embarrassing. As a matter of fact, it was the second highest lead in NFL history after a first half, right behind the Washington game. If you remember that, it was 24-0. The highest score in a half was 25-0. And everybody, going into the second half, I thought, hey, this could be another Patriot game. Remember that against the Atlanta Falcons?
I saw that on Twitter a lot.
It popped in my head.
The Chiefs are down 10. They're going to come back again.
It popped in my head. I thought it was going to happen. I remember it. Atlanta Falcons, I think at one point going into the fourth quarter was up 27-3. And I remember it. And all of a sudden everything started to fall apart. And I was telling Brittany, I was like, I'm not going to be surprised if somehow you see something shocking happen early in the fourth quarter and Kansas City makes a run. And she says, I hope not. But it was just incredible. It really was fun to watching a team like the Kansas City Chiefs completely not know what to do, they had no answer for anybody on the football field. McDuffie, who was one of the best, I believe, slot corners, outside corners we've seen in a very long time over the last 5 seasons, over the last 6 years, he just did not have a good game. He just couldn't stop anybody. You put him on Devontae Adams, he couldn't stop Devontae Adams. You put him on A.J. Brown, he couldn't stop A.J. Brown. It was just an absolute onslaught. I loved it, and I loved watching the Philadelphia Eagles owner, raise that Lombardi trophy and really put the smiles on. This is the second championship for the Philadelphia Eagles in 5 years. Congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Vic Fangio, when he was with the Broncos, even though the Broncos had a bad losing streak against the Chiefs, they've always done well against that level of offense. Now, you're right. They had to change a bunch of things from Denver that didn't have the same level of pass rush outside of Von Miller to now this Eagles team that has a loaded amount of pass rush. And as a result, they did not blitz at all. That is an insane stat. 39 times they had a 4-man rush and 3 times they had a 3-man rush. And they got that kind of pressure. I knew the Chiefs tackles have been a problem all year. That's why I thought Buffalo was going to beat them, because they had that edge rush too. But the Chiefs took advantage of them against Buffalo, but not the same case with Josh Sweat, who's been underrated for a while. He didn't get as much attention because of all those Georgia players, all those Hassan Reddicks in the past that got a lot of attention. But Sweat's been very good for a while, and they just kept pouring it on. You mentioned the Cooper DeJean effect, the versatility. The Eagles have not had a defender like this because they've had a lot of corners that have been good, but not a defensive hybrid type player like DeJean that is great for those types of coverage disguises. On that interception, he looked like he was going for the comeback route, and then he disguised himself back to the middle of the field to get that interception. And Zach Bond did the same kind of thing. It looked like he was blitzing, drops back, gets an interception that way as well. And Vic Fangio, in addition to the not blitzing, did an amazing job with that. And on offense, you mentioned Steve Spagnuolo getting fooled. The last time the Chiefs lost in the playoffs was to the Bengals, and because Jamar Chase went off on the Chiefs in the past, he overcompensated for Jamar Chase, and everyone else went off, Mixon, T. Higgins, etc. They overcompensated for Saquon Barkley, and they had a good counter game plan for that. Jalen Hurts mainly running was the big thing, but they spread the ball around so very well. Goddard had that big catch. Devontae Smith had some big catches, and they never kept it easy for somebody like Spagnuolo.
And Spagnuolo took out Saquon Barkley.
Right.
And we knew that he was going to take out the biggest option, who's been a complete dominant factor for the Philadelphia Eagles. And as soon as they took him out, they thought that they had him, that they thought, hey, you know what? They can't run the ball. They're going to be one-dimensional. What they weren't. They used Jalen Hurts' legs. And how many times did we see them go on 4th and 2, 4th and 3? They made sure that they kept Patrick Mahomes off the field. As a matter of fact, how many times did Patrick Mahomes touch the ball? Really, until the mid-second half. He touched the ball once. If all the way, they dominated the ball in the first half. I think they had the ball for 5 minutes in the first quarter. It was an absolute onslaught. It was so fun to watch, and it was so personally game plan. And I have to give, and we give Fangio all the credit. How about the head coach, man? How about him? Well, he's sitting over there, and everybody thought he was going to be outplayed, outcoached by Andy Reid. He wasn't. He was very steady. I saw A.J. Brown a couple of times going to sidelines and yelling at him and doing things on the sidelines. He kept composed. He kept his team calm. And you saw the dominant fashion that he wanted his team to play. It was dominating fashion. And that it says a lot by who threw the Gatorade on him. It was A.J. Brown and Darius Slay, the two guys that has had problems with him over the last 2 years.
Kevin Fitz in the comment section, it was great to see what the team actually plays like when they're not getting propped up by the refs. I don't think the refs could have even saved them in that game because they were just getting dominated on all levels too. And it just, sometimes you see a lot of these coaches when their star player gets taken out, not have a good game plan, panic, adjust, not well. And Sirianni did a great job. And I think Jalen Hurts' improvisation did very well adjusting to that. And again, it wasn't one obvious guy at wide receiver. That's why Jalen Hurts won MVP because, you could say Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown on these big games, but they also got Goddard involved. They got Grant Calcaterra involved for catch. Jahan Dotson had a couple of big plays in the first quarter. So they were making sure that the Chiefs did not have one set game plan for anyone in the passing game when they had it for Saquon because, like you were talking about, Trent McDuffie can only guard one guy, and even
he didn't play well.
And even he had some holding and pass interference calls. So they had to adjust to that. And as a result of that, none of the other Chiefs defenders, probably outside of Brian Cook, who had the pick, and then Nick Bolton, who was very good as a tackling linebacker, nobody else played well in that defense.
It was so surprising. I was so shocked by the way they just had that game plan. And honestly, Kansas City, Pacheco couldn't run the ball. We didn't see Hunt much. They couldn't run the ball. They fell behind so much. They had no running game. And I really thought the way they should have gotten their offense working more in the second half is run the ball, because Philadelphia over the last couple of weeks has had problems stopping the run against certain teams. I mean, and even against Washington, they couldn't, even though they knocked the ball a couple of times out of Eckler's hands and some of the running backs, they had problems stopping the run when they moved into that second range. I was very shocked that even being down 27-0, they didn't run the ball a little bit more and get them off. I think off their what do they say that?
Out of
rhythm, or just off balance. They didn't do that, and I think Philadelphia understood that they were going to throw the ball, and Patrick Mahomes was going to force the ball into pockets and in places that he was uncomfortable doing.
And they also stayed aggressive, even up 27-0 too, which is not something you see a lot of teams do. And we always talk about it when you're playing against these quote unquote dynasties, especially against the Patriots too. Like, stay aggressive, don't let them get back into the game type thing. And the Eagles kept doing that with shot plays, like you said, going for it on 4th down and 3 a lot of the time. And Nick Sirianni had to commit to that kind of aggression.
He's been doing it all year,
and that is a good sign for the Eagles not to let them back in the game, because again, the Chiefs offense could have gotten it going at any time, or the Chiefs defense could have gotten a turnover to get it going at any time, and then all of a sudden you're looking at what you described, that Patriots scenario is going to loom on these players, and it's a very young team. So
it was never going to happen. You knew that it wasn't going to happen
either,
because every time they took the ball, every time Kansas City looked like they had some kind of confidence, Philadelphia took the ball right down the field and got a field goal. And by the way, what about their kicker? How about that? I mean, he kicked a 50-yard field goal, 48-yard field goal. He didn't miss one field goal, and he's had problems kicking the ball all season long. And then all of a sudden in the Super Bowl, he couldn't miss. He couldn't miss. It was so fun to watch. And looking at Patrick Mahomes' face at the end of the game, that was so fun to watch. It really was. And I'm not taking shots at Patrick Mahomes. We're going to see Patrick Mahomes there again. I'm sure we will. It's just exciting to watch the Kansas City Chiefs fall flat on their faces, and no referees, nobody making excuses for them.
Nobody can say save them for how bad the tackle positions are on that team. Maybe we'll offer you Evan Neal. You can rebirth him.
I think overall, they looked out of whack. Like, they just looked unsettled. Obviously, the game's not too big for them. They've been there plenty, but I think it just shows, too, how deep the Eagles are. Like, Saquon didn't even have 100 total yards. I think he ended up with like 97 rushing and receiving. But they're so deep in the game plan that they knew that they were going to try and take him away. They're like, all right, he's not going to beat us. Okay, well, that's fine. We have plenty other cards in our deck that we can go to. And obviously, Jalen and doing the things that he did with his feet. And he's a big dude. He's no small man to take down. And, just to see him go and basically spread the ball around to all those guys. And, guys came up with big plays at big times. And, I think that just goes to the selflessness of guys knowing that, yeah, Saquon's that dude. But you know what? If one of those games come where, they're locking him up and doing whatever, we have to step up and do that. And they obviously showed it with all those guys doing that. And then defense just being everywhere. I mean, it's like they're like little gnats. And I know about those things. So they were everywhere. And it was fun. It was fun to see them all over the field, back and forth. And, just the game plan and how they switched it up. And they were never, there was never one time you're like, okay, they're going to fall into this. And, they kept switching it up. And it felt like the opposite way around with Andy Reid. Usually he's playing checkers, chess, and the other playing checkers. It felt like it was the other way around. And I think they started to force stuff when it got out of hand. But knowing the Chiefs and what they are, it's still scary sometimes. You're like, all right, like you said, Speedy, that one interception or that one big play, now you're like, all right, here they come. What's going to happen now? There's going to be a doink kick or there's going to be a block punt or something. So it was a fun game to watch, even though, like, at first I was just kind of shaking my head because I was like, holy cow, it's 24-0 and it's halftime. Like, what just happened?
And also, if you watch Patrick Mahomes' numbers going into the fourth quarter, I think he only had like 120 yards. It was really it was the fourth quarter where he got all the yards. That's because the last 7-8 minutes of the game, the Philadelphia Eagles took all their starters out.
It was garbage time savior worthy.
It was completely dominant. I think Patrick Mahomes is 2 times down in the fourth quarter. I think he threw about 100 yards in the fourth quarter, 120 yards in the fourth quarter.
Xavier Worthy was the leading receiver in this game with garbage time, 157 yards.
I think if you look at the numbers, I think Patrick Mahomes only had 50 or 60 yards thrown in the first half. Just think about that. Patrick Mahomes only had 50 or 60 yards thrown in the first half. That is just absolutely amazing. And that tells you how good Vic Fangio's defense was throughout the game. It was just complete annihilation. They kept putting pressure after pressure after pressure on Patrick Mahomes. And nobody, and did you watch the Chiefs? At one point, they brought in 2 running backs to help block, and they still couldn't block them. It was unbelievable. Jalen Carter is a beast. I don't care. I'll take back whatever I said about this kid. This kid is fantastic to watch. It's just amazing. And then after the play, he's talking crap. You see him talking to Patrick Mahomes. You see him talking to all the offensive linemen. And by the way, what happened to the Kansas City Chiefs offensive line? I mean, everybody was talking how great this offensive line has been all season long, how great they are protecting Patrick Mahomes. They couldn't do anything against this front 4. And at one point, front 5. It was just complete annihilation. How about Graham? This could be his final year as an NFL player. Watch out. If you watch him, he was all over the place throughout the game. It was like he was resurrected. I mean, this guy is what? In football years, he's got to be about 60 years old, and he was all over the freaking field. It's just so fun to watch. I have not seen the Kansas City Chiefs just completely out of sync throughout the game. It's absolutely remarkable. I really loved to watch it. And by the way, The only person that was seeing red at the end of the game was Patrick Mahomes, because the only thing he's going to be seeing is a bull's ass, because he's going to have no trophy or whatever, his third trophy in a row. And we're not going to see a three-peat, and we're not going to be talking about that anymore, because we're never going to see that. And if we do see it, it won't be anytime soon. That's for sure.
You think Kelsey's done?
No.
No.
He came out and said at the end of the game when they interviewed him, somebody said that, "Are you done?" And he says, "I plan to play next year." So Kelsey signed a 2-year deal. I expect him to show back to a training camp in the offseason. But, dude, if you look at Travis Kelsey, he's out of shape, one. We've seen it all season. You could see it in it. He's got heavier. Last year, when he started dating Taylor Swift throughout the playoffs and everybody was talking about it, he was a lot thinner. You could see it. He's not the same player he was 2 or 3 years ago. And obviously because of age, but maybe he's just getting more comfortable thinking about getting married and settling down, either with Taylor or with somebody else. And he's got a podcast that just got $100 million contract from his sponsor. I don't know who it was. It was FanDuel or somebody else that gave him $100 million. So does he really need to play football anymore? No, he loves the game. I just don't think he's the same player he once was. And I think it has a lot to do because he wants to settle down. He wants to move on with his career. But I expect Travis Kelsey to be back next year.
Yeah, Kelsey was a game breaker just a couple of years ago. They were if you go back to that first Chiefs championship team before the back-to-back, they had Hill taking the top off the defense, Tyreek Hill taking the top off the defense, and Travis Kelsey being able to get open on everything underneath. Fast forward to today, they tried to recreate that with Xavier Worthy, except guess what? Travis Kelsey can't get open underneath anymore. So he wasn't open all game. DeAndre Hopkins was always a possession guy, and now he doesn't have the hands anymore, so he's kind of useless out there. Hollywood Brown, Errol, we talked about all year. He's
Horrible.
a pretender.
Horrible.
Pretender. That team was not very good compared roster-wise, talent-wise to this Eagles team. That Eagles team has great players all littered throughout it. A bunch of Hall of Fame talent type guys, if their careers keep going in this trajectory, some that are already going to be there. This is a really great team. One of these all-time great performances by this, my dreaded, hated Eagles, which, as you know, while we were in New Orleans, all these Eagle fans, Jabba, you haven't heard this
By
yet.
the way, you were in New Orleans and everybody was asking, who do you have? I can't say, I don't want to see the Eagles win. You want to see Kansas City win? You want to see the referees hoist that trophy? Because that's what would have happened. Because if Kansas City would have won that game, it would have only been because that the referees giving them all the calls. Because I thought it was going to happen early in the game, especially in the first quarter with some of those questionable calls. I was like, what? And by the way, and you mentioned Travis Kelsey and Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy didn't wake up until the fourth quarter. He did not wake up until the fourth quarter. When the Eagles decided to take Deshaun out and Mitchell out, that was when Xavier Worthy went crazy and he had those 2 touchdowns. So everybody keeps saying,
biggest thing about this game, though, wasn't even that. That was the thing that compounded the mistakes. The thing that was the worst part of this game, you guys have been talking about it, but I want to get into some of the nitty-gritty, like defensive coordinator stuff with the line. The line, if you can get everyone and get pressure with 3 or 4 guys, now you're dropping 7 and 8 in coverage. And a guy like Fangio, who normally blitzes, probably man blitzes a lot, he decided to get far away from his normal type of situation. What did he do? He dropped everybody in different patterns throughout the game to confuse Mahomes. Mahomes had no idea where these underneath defenders were. DeJean, Vaughn, he couldn't figure it out. It was that good because if you have 3 guys getting home, and let's face it, the only bet that I made that was actually paying off because I put too much money on Saquon. I should have been stupid, because I knew they were going to try to shut him down, and yet I just thought they wouldn't. But that's what they did. They shut him down and could shut anyone else down. What they didn't do, the Eagles line was have to bring anybody else. So what do we got? Joe Tooney, left guard, all pro, going up against Josh Sweat. I bet Sweat 2+ sacks as soon as I saw that. It doesn't matter that Tooney was capable of doing it against the Bills. This is a different story. Josh Sweat is a real deal pass rusher, and he wreaked havoc. And then you had Jalen Carter demanding 2 guys on you on the inside at all times. And then you have a variety of guys that they rotated in with Nolan Smith and their other linemen. even though as we were doing our ice shaker challenges, none of these great Eagle fans knew who any of the players on their line were, that they love their team so much. They were hugging me because saying thank you for Saquon. That's how bad it got, Giants fans. That's what it was like during this week for me, wearing Giants gear. But I wore it every day, and that's who I am. But that's a whole nother story. The line was the story of this game.
It was.
The defensive line won the game for them.
It was, and it was that was the battle of the trenches. You had the offensive line that was dominating by the Eagles, which has been one of the best offensive lines in football, and the defensive line, which has been number one really throughout the season as well. Vic Fangio, just think, if you look at the numbers, they were ranked in almost 30th or 29th in every statistic defensively last year. They made, 3 moves? They added Mitchell, DeJean, Vic Fangio, and Braun, and then all of a sudden, they had the number one defense in almost every single statistic. Just imagine. I mean, when did we actually see a team go from one of the worst to the best in the NFL as quick as they did? It's amazing. And you have to give Nick Sirianni a lot of that credit, because for all the things that we heard throughout the offseason is he should be fired, he has no control, he has nothing. He's dealt with A.J. Brown all season long in the Jalen Hurts thing. Then there were other players. Darius Slay was talking crap in the middle of the season. And then who was hugging him after he had the Gatorade wash? It was Darius Slay and A.J. Brown. Very well deserved. I honestly, I got to give Nick Fangio, I got to give Nick Sirianni a lot of credit because Nick Sirianni has been absolutely killed all over social media. Absolutely killed all over social media. And for what he has done throughout the playoffs and throughout the second half of the season is absolutely remarkable. To me, the MVP of the Philadelphia Eagles throughout the season, not the playoffs and not the Super Bowl, was Nick Sirianni. I think he's been sensational. He outcoached Andy Reid.
Just a couple of thoughts on the backtrack of Nick Sirianni. What a hell of a job he did this year with that team. We came on here week after week after week, and we're like, if he doesn't do this, he's going to get fired. If he doesn't do this, he's going to get fired. If he doesn't do that, he's going to get fired. And all he did was take all the stories, all the backlash, and I think he's put it on his shoulders like, be mad at me, and watch the greatness of this team just happen. And nobody was paying attention to how good the actual Eagles were. So I think he did a hell of a job. He deserves his flowers. Good for him. As far as the Chiefs go, I think what everybody's missing talking about is I think Andy Reid kind of wanted to be this legacy game for Travis Kelce and Mahomes. They wanted Mahomes to go out there, throw for 450 yards, have 4 touchdowns, lead him to a three-peat. He's better than Tom Brady. Travis Kelce has like 2 of those touchdowns. He's got all the playoff records, and they wanted to be this big legacy game. They didn't run the ball. What do you do against a 4-man front when you can't have anything go else right? You run it right at them.
Said it.
They said they abandoned it, and they're like, we're going to throw these short screens. No, that's not going to work. Run the ball up the middle with Pacheco, who's a power runner. He could probably get 6 yards of carry every time he wanted to, and they just abandoned it. It was bad coaching. It was bad. Everything about it was bad. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes got shook after the first drive, and he's like, who the hell are we playing? Because I haven't seen anything like this. But I think the game plan was to just have Patrick Mahomes have this legacy game with Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce retires. Andy Reid retires. Patrick Mahomes is going forward as the best quarterback, and that's how they game plan for the 2 weeks. And nobody talked about that, but I really think that's what happened. And then they got punched in the mouth, and they had no other plans.
And they also, when you see a team that adopts a lot of the similar concepts, even when the Eagles beat the Chiefs in the regular season in 2023, the offense still did very well in that game. And obviously in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, they scored 38 points. And I think Andy Reid still wanted to go to a lot of those concepts. Maybe thought they could with just better wide receivers, because the Chiefs were dominating the Eagles in that game 2 years ago with Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney, like doing a lot of the work, Justin Watson, like all these random receivers. Like it wasn't like Kelce did well, but it wasn't like they had these lit up receiving core since Tyreek Hill was there. So they thought, okay, maybe they just could trust the stars. Errol was talking about Hopkins normally doing well, but not showing up in this game. And Xavier Worthy.
They're old. I mean, look at their team. Look at Kansas City. Juju Smith-Schuster. He's an older wide receiver. DeAndre Hopkins. He's an older wide receiver. Travis Kelce. He's an older wide receiver tight end. Kareem Hunt, older running back. If you go up and down this roster, they're an older roster. The Eagles are a young roster, up-and-coming roster. They got a ton of young guys. Jalen Hurts is what, 28, 29? He's in the prime of his career. This is a young, talented roster. Kansas City, this is going to be the tail end. I don't know how much time they have left.
Well, yeah, it's a younger roster on defense, but offensively, yeah, it's very old. Now, Xavier Worthy's really the only young guy you could really trust.
I mean,
Fish, did you say Hurts is only 26?
Hurts is only 26 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So there's one other thing that I talked to a couple of guys I coach football with that were apoplectic at the Chiefs' game plan on offense.
What word?
Apoplectic, apocalypse.
Oh,
apoplectic.
No, you should have heard the words he was using.
In case you were wondering if I was an AP history
it was
teacher.
a dictionary.
Good night.
Well, put everyone to bed a little later. But I'll tell you what, if you have pressure up the middle, and look, if you ever coach like a shitty team, I'm sorry, I've had all the great teams if you were watching some of my former players. But if you're ever coaching a team that just didn't have the talent on the offensive line, you come up with creative ways to get the ball off. And there's two ways that coaches usually do this. One, it's roll out the quarterback. So he throws the ball from a different platform, because clearly dropping back in a pocket is not working. So you only play half field games, kind of what they do in college with, spread quarterbacks. They only read half the field and they'll roll them sometimes and set up over the tackle or do half rolls. That's one thing that they should have done, or at least tried to play around with. I understand the horizontal screen game, Owen, is not really something that you like watching because it looks like gains of 0 and gains of 1, or it could be like a fumble back behind the line lateral. But that's what teams do if they can't run the ball. Pacheco's coming back from a broken leg. I guess they didn't trust his leg. Can't explain it any other way unless they just really screwed that up and they were just, like you said, shook. But the biggest one that makes no sense, and we watched the Giants do this even with crummy quarterbacks like Daniel Jones over the years. High tempo. Go no huddle. Don't let them get off the field.
They tried that in the second quarter.
No.
They tried to do that. They
didn't get any first downs.
No.
They never got any first downs in the first half. They got one the whole first half.
They were trying to do that in the second quarter.
Well, that's the thing. You can't do it if you don't get a first down.
Exactly. They tried to do that. They even went on in the third quarter when they tried to do that again. They went on a fourth down. They were trying to push the ball down the field. They couldn't get it.
I'm not saying like going on fourth down. I mean like.
I got it. Rush the play, get to the line of scrimmage, and
don't allow substitutions on that Fangio
They
defense.
did. They tried to do that in the second quarter. It didn't work. Vic Fangio had the best game plan. He really did. It was fantastic. Dude, Vic Fangio outsmarted probably one of the greatest offensive minds the NFL has ever had in Andy Reid. Andy Reid was on the sidelines. His hands were on his head. His pad was thrown on the ground. I've never seen Andy Reid get so frustrated that he slammed his pad on the ground. He went to his team. He went to Kelsey and Patrick Mahomes and huddled with them. He had no idea what was going on. They were shocked. They were absolutely smart.
Like Dable throwing the tablet.
Oh my God!
He was probably worried he was going to get tackled by Kelsey again this year, so he's like, "Get me out of the way,
dude!
I can't figure this out."
I have never seen Andy Reid so flabbergasted throughout a game like I saw him on Sunday. I have never seen him like that. He was shocked. And Vic, and again, I think the MVP should go to Fangio for that game, but throughout the season, it should go to Nick Sirianni. I think the coaching was fantastic throughout the season from both guys. And even I give a credit, Kellen Moore, who loved to throw the ball for all those years he was with the Dallas Cowboys, and when he went to the LA Chargers last year, and people were questioning him and his offensive mind. He goes over there to the Philadelphia Eagles after he got let go, and he completely changed his game plan. He ran the ball, and you saw the difference. It opened up the passing lanes. He was the coaching staff was sensational throughout the season. And again, it goes all the way from up top. I mean, ownership and obviously the GM, who I believe is the best GM in all of football. I don't think you can argue that anymore when you've seen what Philadelphia did in the offseason, adding Braun and Dijon and Mitchell, and then bringing in Vic Fangio. I mean, arguably the greatest offseason we've seen a GM ever have. It was just fun to watch. It wasn't even chess. It wasn't checkers. It was Monopoly. That's what it was. And guess who was getting all the money? It was the Philadelphia Eagles. They were winning and stealing all the money, and they were robbing Patrick Mahomes. I think Patrick Mahomes, lost his way. Or what do you play with, the car or something like that? What do you use? Monopoly. I haven't played Monopoly in a long time.
There's all kinds of pieces. The best word is the thimble, though.
No, there it is. Maybe he was.
I go hat. I'm a hat guy.
All right, he's a hat guy.
Yeah.
You're a thimble guy.
Shoe.
What were you?
Fish. See, against the Bills, they had 135 yards rushing, and Hunt had a TD. How do you just get 6 carries for 16 yards and just abandon the run? Like Manny came out with that stat saying they ran the ball for 135 yards. If they would have done that the first couple series and just run the ball, at least slow the game down. They're getting punched in the mouth. Do you only give your 2 running backs 6 carries total?
So this was always a criticism of Andy Reid when he was an Eagles coach, if you go back in time, where he had guys like Brian Westbrook, who were great running backs, but he wanted to utilize them more in a passing game. The Giants did it with Tiki Barber to a similar extent. Tiki was great in the screen game. And Reid never really wanted to run the ball. He never gave all that many carries. And some people thought it was to try to protect his running backs. That might have had some truth to it. But if you look at it now, he kind of fell back into that same situation. Yeah. What I saw as a coach, I've been there, where I have plays drawn up that I know are going to work, except my guy got pushed back 4 yards into the backfield because his bitch ass didn't get off the ball fast enough, and that defensive lineman just ate his lunch. And that's what happened all game. He just kept throwing up his hands as this was a freaking perfect play, except this lazy bastard wouldn't block this guy. That's what was happening. He didn't know what to do because he was just like, their guys are kicking my guys' ass, and there's nothing I can do about it. And he just gave up.
He was out of shape, man.
Sort of. Not really, but he
was so out of shape, dude. He couldn't even.
He's done.
He couldn't even run around.
He's not a star anymore.
He's done.
He's just an average.
He just wants to come back to break Rice's record. That's it.
He will be back.
I mean, he's allowed to, But.
He will be back next year. There's no doubt. He came out and he said at the end of the game, people were asking, and I remember one reporter asked him, "Are you done?" He says, "I'll be back next year. I'll be back training camp in the offseason." So he expects to come back. And Taylor Swift already came out and said, I'm not going to stop my man if he wants to continue playing. So obviously his plan is to go back and try to win another one. They've had a lot of success, and it's about time that the NFL and a team like the Philadelphia Eagles, completely slam them on their head. We remember a couple of years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, when this happened to them in the fourth quarter, when Patrick Mahomes, quote unquote, claimed that he had hurt ankle and he was running all over the field. Now it was Jalen Hurts' turn. Finally, Jalen Hurts stuck it up their ass. And boy, did he stick it up their ass. Honestly, I don't know if Jalen Hurts was the MVP. I think the defense was the MVP. And like I said, what the defense completely did to Patrick Mahomes. But like I said, if you could choose a coordinator or a coach, it's Vic Fangio. The game plan on Patrick Mahomes and how just completely out of sync Patrick Mahomes was throughout the game. And like you said, Owen, I'll say it again. They should have run the ball. They should have given it to Pacheco. When Pacheco did get the ball, he was getting 6. He was getting 5. He was getting yardage. It wasn't like they were losing yards. Even Saquon Barkley, when he was running the ball, he wasn't getting like 6 or 7 a clip. He was getting 3, 2.5, but he was still getting enough where it would set them up for the pass. If you keep them honest, it opens up the field for the other guys. They just didn't do it. And I don't know what the game plan was. You had 2 weeks to plan for the Eagles, and you completely got torched by a team that has a coach that nobody likes. Throughout the offseason and throughout the season, everybody was saying he doesn't belong there. He should have been fired. He got out coached by that guy. And by the way, that guy is going to get a nice big contract next year when he becomes a free agent.
Maybe Hassan Reddick was the problem the whole time.
It was, it was so
when we
fun.
interviewed Sean O'Hara on Radio Row, former Giants center, he said that Andy Reid cannot be outcoached by Sirianni.
He was wrong.
It seems like he may have been wrong. I don't. It's hard to say because it's not like Sirianni had all that much to do when his guys were just overwhelming them in the backfield every single play. Almost anybody can coach a game where your guys are kicking their ass.
Fish.
Look, I'm just gonna say,
the coach. He's the coach. So you're going to give Andy Reid all the credit when they're doing it defensively and offensively?
I already said that Reid
Nick
screwed up
Sirianni?
really badly in this game. I was just saying that he didn't run the ball. He got away, like you said, we all agreeing he got away from the run. But the biggest thing that he did is he didn't try any tempo. He didn't try any for sustained tempo, at least, right? He didn't try to do that. And he didn't change the platform, as they say, or roll him out or get him over a different spot.
Well, the Chiefs are in real trouble. The Chiefs are in real trouble going forward. Think about it. They need a left tackle. They need a running back. McDuffie's contract's up, so they're gonna have to pay him. I bet their chances of missing the playoff next year are just as great as going back to a Super Bowl.
And it's interesting, and I want to say this, Owen. If you remember in the third quarter, this is how I know Nick Sirianni outmatched Andy Reid. Remember when A.J. Brown came off the field and he was yelling at Nick Sirianni because he didn't put him in the right position to catch that ball, and then the next time around he put A.J. Brown in the right position and had Jalen Hurts throw him the ball and he got a touchdown. Do you remember that? That tells me that he was on the same page as Jalen Hurts, and Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid were not on the same page. I mean, watch it. I mean, I saw it for what it was. It was, dude, I'm telling you right now, that was probably the best coaching job against an Andy Reid team I have ever seen. I have never seen Andy Reid get so flabbergasted. Even remember when he was coaching the Philadelphia Eagles and he played the Patriots in the Super Bowl and the Patriots beat him in the fourth quarter. Even that game, it was back and forth. It was very close. Terrell Owens was up and down the field. He had a good game. They ran the ball pretty well. Andy Reid had a good game plan against a good Bill Belichick defense. And it was a very close game, if you remember. I have never seen Andy Reid completely get out of sync throughout a whole football game. From the first quarter to the fourth quarter, he had no idea. He had no answer for Vic Fangio. He had no answer for Nick Sirianni. I mean, it was just an absolute Italian slaughter. That's what it was. It was an absolute Italian slaughter.
But I think it was all building up to this moment throughout the whole regular season. Everybody said the Chiefs, hey, they're getting away with it. They're getting away with it. Their left tackle had always been a problem all season. They didn't run the ball as effectively, and Pacheco was out. They said they need a running back. Their receivers aren't great. They're going to try Worthy. He panned out sometimes, panned out didn't. All their flaws just happened to come out in the Super Bowl, and the Eagles made them look like they've never played football before. But it was happening slowly all season. The Eagles are really talented, and every minuscule thing they took advantage of.
Boy, did they ever. Oh, my God. It was so fun to watch. I had smiles on my face. As a matter of fact, I was so happy. I actually watched the halftime show. So for all those people that said, did you watch Kendrick Lamar? And by the way, it wasn't that bad of a halftime show. By the way, I saw my friend Mustard. He was there. He told me he was not
on
going
stage.
to be. Yeah, he told me he wasn't going to be there. I was texting back and forth to him, and he said, I'm not there. I'm right now doing something with Drake. And then all of a sudden, he reappears in the middle of
he's doing something with Drake, all right. It was destroying the rest of Drake's life. Oh my God. We'll talk about it when we get to What's That Smell.
You know what's crazy? Him and Drake are very close, and so is him and Kendrick. That's the crazy thing. He's in between that beef. So, and that's a whole nother story. But nevertheless, it was just, I don't know. Maybe he really was lying to me. I don't know. But maybe he wasn't supposed to tell me. But it was fun to watch. It was fun to watch. It really was. It was exciting to see something. And we were there, and a lot of people were questioning the Eagles. We had Jason Avant, and Jason Avant was so sure the Eagles were going to beat the hell out of the Chiefs. He was so sure of it. And boy, was he right. Meaning, Ian Rappaport reports that the Saints will finalize a deal to hire Kellen Moore as their new and next head coach. Nick Sirianni, after winning the Super Bowl, pleaded with Moore to reconsider his decisions, but it seems unlikely he will change his mind. Reports say that Dan Orlovsky could leave ESPN to join the Saints as an assistant coach. Oh, that'll be fun. Adam Schefter reports that Moore will be double or triple his salary as an Eagles offensive coordinator, which has him at $2.5 million. The Eagles offense was 7th in points per game, 8th in in yards per game during the regular season and scored 95 points combined in their 2 playoff games versus the Commanders and the Chiefs. The Saints offense was 24th in points, 21st in yards last season, and the first time since Sean Payton was hired in 2006 that they have been outside of the top 20. Well, Kellen Moore is going to finally get a head coaching job. I don't know if it's where he wants to be. The Saints are an old team. They're going to need to rebuild. They have some weapons. They have Olave. They have Alvin Kamara. He's still there. They still have weapons, and maybe that will help him because he started to run the ball a lot with Saquon Barkley this year. Having a weapon like Alvin Kamara, it's like having Saquon Barkley, but a little bit, I would say a little bit downsize from Saquon
More
Barkley.
flawed as a runner.
Yeah, but the fact is he still has weapons over there. He has a legitimate defense. They did lose a lot of secondary help in at the trade deadline as they sent one to the Washington Commanders. But this is a team that's going to be rebuilding. Now, Kellen Moore has always wanted a coaching job. He's bounced around a couple of times over the last couple of years. He started really his career with the Cowboys and obviously getting his opportunities under one of the more known coaches in the NFL. But I just think Dan Orlovsky, why would you go with Dan Orlovsky? I think he's a bad analyst. I don't know. Is he going to be the offensive coordinator over there? How do you bring a guy who wasn't a great quarterback in the NFL? Now, Kellen Moore wasn't a great quarterback, but at least he got to work under some great coaches. Who's Dan Orlovsky worked under? Rex Ryan? I mean, seriously, over there at ESPN, it's just absolutely ridiculous. I don't know why Dan Orlovsky would leave ESPN. He's got a good deal over there. He's got an opportunity to show his face on television and not have to stay up 16, 17 hours a day to have a game plan against another defense or another offense. I don't understand it. But again, Kellen Moore was going to take this job. If he was going to get offered it, he was going to take this job. The only question I have for Kellen Moore is, taking this job, is he going to set himself back? If this doesn't work over here, we've seen guys. Adam Gase, did it work over there in Miami? No. He got another job with the Jets, and he completely fell flat on his face. Another guy, Rex Ryan, he went to the Jets. He was there for 5 years. He leaves the Jets. He goes to Buffalo. He falls flat on his face. He's never got another job. And we were just talking about Robert Saleh. He almost got a job with the Jaguars. How long was that going to work? I mean, coaches should not. And I don't know if this is the right coaching job for him. I think he should have waited. Stay over there with Philadelphia for another year. See if you can win back-to-back championships, what they have a very good chance of doing. And then there'll be other opportunities, other positions open, other teams opening up in the next couple of years where he can get his pick of the litter. You're pretty much being handed the Saints. Nobody wanted. I'll go with Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn got offered the job months ago. He would not take the job. He took the Jet job. We've seen other guys be offered that job. There was a couple of guys that decided, hey, you know what? I'm not even going to interview for that job. I have no interest in that job. One of those guys was the guy that he was working under in Cowboyville. Okay? There was no way. Mike McCarthy had no interest in coaching the Saints. Why? Because they don't have a quarterback. So you're going, and they're an older team. So, and you don't even know if Alvin Kamara is going to want to be there next year. So they got to start over. So I think a job like this, I think they interviewed like 10 or 11 people, and they offered the job to 5 people, and nobody wanted the job at the end of it. 2 of them decided not even to coach this year, to sit out for the rest of the season, this up-and-coming season, and then take a job if a job opens up. So, I mean, it's just, Kingsbury was offered to interview for the job. He said, no way do I want to go over there. I got Jaden Daniels. So I don't know where this organization is going. Is Kellen Moore the right guy? Probably not. We've seen Kellen Moore enough to know that this guy is an up and down a head coach or coach as far as an offensive coordinator. And I'm questioning how he's going to run this offense. And where is this defense? What is this defense going to be now that they have no secondary?
Yeah, it's interesting because Kellen Moore has had strengths with running backs in the past. We saw you're going to say Saquon Barkley, obviously this year being the big extreme. He's had some big years with Ezekiel Elliott too when he was in Dallas, and that seems to be the claim to fame. And maybe the Saints are trying to at least get that part of it done while they still try to figure out their passing game. Because you're right, their passing game is very far behind. Derek Carr is not the same quarterback. He's barely a top 20 quarterback right now since he's gotten to the Saints. And this offensive line, something that they've drafted well for a long time, has fallen apart. We talk about all the bad draft picks the Giants have had. The Saints tackle that in that draft was Trevor Penning, that he has not worked out. They've had a bunch of first-round picks that they've reached on that worked in Sean Payton's scheme and has not worked since. Olave's nice. Rashid Shaheed looked pretty good last year when he was healthy, and then he got hurt. Will he be the same player? I like their defensive talent. I think it is pretty good, but it's hard for your defense to play as well as it did when you're on the field a ton because the offense was just a mess. And that kind of thing is not going to be solved with just any.
You like their secondary?
I like their secondary. I think their secondary is fine. What I think has gotten worse is their front four, though. That definitely has gotten older. They drafted for Brian Breesy last year as a defensive tackle from Clemson, but they've lost a lot of guys since then, too, one of which went to the Jets and Sheldon Rankins. That didn't work out, etc. But they've lost about four or five. Trey Hendrickson went to the Bengals. Look how good he's gone since he got into Cincinnati. Like, they've lost a ton of guys on that defensive line, but their linebackers and corners are still pretty good. It's just their offense got so far behind. It was expected to fall off badly when Peyton left, and I think they held their own for the most part the first 2 years, but this year definitely showed the lowest of lows. And you were talking about it, just a bad situation with just how much money that they are behind in the salary cap. They're not going to be able to build this team up. And maybe Orlovsky, the reason they're thinking about that is they're thinking maybe somebody to rebirth a young quarterback. I don't know, but they don't have any high upside prospects either. They're picking 11th this year in a bad quarterback class. Like, it does not much they're going to go anywhere. So they're going to try to make this just a running team. And like you said, Kamara is not the pure runner that even Zeke was at the time, or definitely not Saquon Barkley.
I'm trying to look at the ranking, but I don't think they were a very high ranking this year defensively. I don't know where you come off that they were a decent defense. I don't think they were. I watched a couple of their games. They completely got demolished on the defensive side of the ball. So I don't know where you come up saying that you're okay, you're fine with their defense. Because I remembered a bunch of games where they got pulverized. So I don't know where you come off with that. That's just me. So
yeah, I think Kellen's going to have to find the right guys to fit whatever system he is going to create. And, I think getting it done, Orlovsky's kind of an interesting one. Like, why wouldn't you want to be on ESPN? He's on every show. He doesn't have to do anything but listen to the people in his ear and show up on time. Like, he doesn't have to do anything. Maybe he does want to coach. Who knows? That's obviously, for a different topic. But I just think him coming in and all the guys that had interviewed before, it's like he's wanted to be a head coach. He's probably going to make somewhere around $7-8 million, and he's going to have to find the right, I guess, contingency plan with the guys that he has, with what he has, and his MO, and try to build from that. Because Speedy, like you said, this isn't a great quarterback class, and they're going at 11. So I think a lot of it's going to depend on what he can do with what he has, and then putting his system in place, and hopefully making some trades, having a good draft.
They're going to have to draft, though, because they can't trade because they're so cash strapped. Like, they can't even bring in any big contracts. So you're going to have to bring in quantity if you're even going to try to make trades. I think Kellen Moore just is being there to work with these other guys, the ones they do have, because Olave is a free agent after next season. So they're going to have to make a decision on him. Taysom Hill's an unknown, and Rashid Shaheed's an unknown. And so then even Kamara, too, is getting older. So they have to rebirth what they have right now until they can fix the quarterback spot. Because
they're going to fix a lot, Speedy. Their defense is not as good as you're saying it is. This is not a good defense. This is an older defense that needs to rebuild that secondary. This is not a good secondary. They gave away their best defensive player in the secondary at the trade deadline. They traded him to Washington. So you're going to tell me that this defense is just going to be fine next year with Kellen Moore as the head coach? He better get Vic Fangio because he's going to have nothing there. I don't know where you come up. I'm looking at their defense right now where they're ranked. It's not good. I'm okay with their defense. Their defense is fine. They got three guys that are as old in football years. They're what? They're considered old men, grandpas. So how could you say, hey, you know what? I'm okay with this defense. They're fine. You're crazy. Kellen Moore running this defense? Kellen Moore. We're talking about Kellen Moore. This guy doesn't know his ass from his tailbone. You're going to tell me he's going to find a way to get this defense to play well? The last two coaches they've had, actually, the last coach was a defensive coordinator. Their last coach was a defensive coordinator. Now you have Kellen Moore. Who's going to be his defensive coordinator?
Who knows?
You're going to trust him?
It's not going to be Vic Fangio. They're not going to probably.
You're going to trust him? I don't trust him. Honestly, he went from the best defense in football to one of the worst defenses in football. But you're okay with it. Their defense is good. They're fine. Go look at their ranking right now. They're great. Sensational.
But that's what happens when your offense is so on the field so much. I think, like Jabba was saying too, like you're looking at a case of these draft picks not having to pan out. It just happens where you're going to have to trade all these guys, and Cameron Jordan could be one of them on the trade block next year just because of that. They've drafted.
How old is Cameron Jordan?
35, I want to say.
I rest my case. You're talking about Cameron Jordan. Everybody's talking about Myles Garrett. He's too old. He's 28, 29. Nobody wants to give up a first-round draft pick. This guy is like, what, top 3 defensive play? Cameron Jordan's 35 years old. He should just retire and run. What he was doing the honors. He was broadcasting for the honors. That's what he should be doing, not playing football. He's an old man. He's a geezer. He shouldn't even be on the football field anymore.
Yeah, the other one to watch probably in trade negotiations will be Demario Davis as well, another guy that's an older guy, 34 years old, I believe, who still played well this year.
34, 35.
So,
I'm fine with this defense. They're great.
No, the younger players, I'm saying. I think the younger
Who? Give me one.
I think the younger play, I think they have Pete Warner's a good young linebacker. I like Alante Taylor as a slot corner. I think they have like I said, Breesy as defensive tackle. I think they have good young talent. I just think they don't have enough depth like they used to. And I think they're another team, like we were talking about with these teams that rely a lot on the 4-man rushes. Once the defensive line has fallen apart, it's not the same for like what Dennis Allen was trying to do last year. And that I just think that the rankings that you're saying are misleading just because I think the offense is
they're the
so
third
bad.
worst defense in all of football in every category. Third worst in all of football this year in almost every single defensive category.
No, it happens when your offense is so bad. You're on the field.
Stop, Speedy. You're going to make excuses for they're old.
Let me get Speedy's back for 1 second, because there were a couple of games this year that this man was the quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. Yes, Spencer, the Rattlesnake Rattler, was playing quarterback for your beloved New Orleans Saints. That guy cannot play dead in a Cowboy movie.
We saw him. I didn't even want to see him. We saw him. I didn't even want to speak to him. He was like, I remember Nick was like, "You want to talk to him?" I say, "No," because I'm afraid I'm going to get thrown out of here.
I spotted him in the distance. I told Fish, like,
Speedy saw him and he's like, "Let's get him." I know Errol doesn't. I know Errol doesn't like him.
And Fish was saying, "Oh, this would be like radio gold if we got to do it."
I told him, "You better not. You better not. I'm going to get thrown out of here." That's what happened. He was walking around and everybody was like, "Look, go get Spencer." Go. I said, "You better not. You better not get him." And Fish was licking his lips. I'm telling you, I went to the bathroom and I said, "Fish, you better not do it. You better not do it." And he said, "I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it." But I don't know. That was the first time I met Fish, so I don't know. I don't know if I trust him when I went to the bathroom.
So I ended up getting some weird Chiefs fan with the bedazzled coat on. With
oh my God, the Taylor Swifty fan.
59 on the back.
Please, that was another interesting. By the way, that kid actually knew what he was talking about when it came to football.
He did. He really did. That was impressive.
Yeah, he was very impressive.
The Saints are in cap hell perpetually, right? They've been this team that's trying to they're 10 years down the road. They've kicked down the can all the way down this far, and they still have another like 23. I think it's somewhere in the 20s or low 30s dead cap, or they're underneath. They have to cut before they can even get to the floor this year. They do this to themselves every year. They got a bargain basement coach because that's all they have. They're gonna be terrible. Kellen Moore is not going to be the coach of this team when they turn it around. They don't have a quarterback. Alvin Kamara's in his 30s. He had a great year last year. Don't expect it to be 2 years in a row at that age with all the carries that they put on. He got hurt at the end of the season right before the championship game, so I lost my fantasy league. Thank you very much. But there are others. Remember Deebo with the 1 catch for 5 yards in the last game as well. I missed losing by 2 yards. That was wonderful. Thanks, Deebo. Matthew Berry, by the way, talked to me about Deebo, said it's blame Deebo. That's what Matthew Berry, the great fantasy analyst, said. Don't blame me, blame Deebo. So going back to
he's going to be looking for a new job, by the way.
You're right. He definitely is going to be. And we're going to talk about that after the break, actually. He's
a lot bigger, by the way. And he's a lot bigger in person. when I saw Deebo, it was the first day, and I was standing right. I was like, that guy's pretty big. I mean, he's a big.
stacked.
He is a
Who was
big.
the biggest guy we saw, do you think?
Who's the
Brian
big?
McKinney.
Because
Brian, he was,
Probably Bryant McKinney.
and he loved us.
That
By
dude.
the way, you know, it's so funny. And I'll tell you guys a quick story. I know you guys remember it. It was one of our last interviews, and it was Tully and Brian McKinney and Nathan. Shout out to Nathan. He brought him up to do the interview. And Brian came up, and when they were sitting down, I was choking on a peanut. Okay. I was choking. I couldn't, I was, the only thing they had upstairs were peanuts. So I got a cup full of peanuts, and I was like eating them by, you know, I was drinking them like a cup of water, you know, and all of a sudden I choked on I don't know what it is, cashew or something like that. And they're sitting up, and I'm like, I'm choking on nuts, and they couldn't stop laughing before the interview. So those guys were great. And by the way, just to go into this quickly about the Saints, total defense, they were third worst in the NFL. Passing defense, they were sixth worst in the NFL. And rushing defense, they were second to worst in the NFL, right in front of the Carolina Panthers. So, Speedy, you like this defense? You're on drugs. This defense is not good. So
Let me support Speedy real quick, if that's all right. Because I want to make the parallel to the Super Bowl, because the Chiefs defense, we all agreed, was one of the better defenses in the league this year. But when the offense is pathetic, well, that's fine. But when the offense is pathetic like that, like the Saints offense was pathetic all year when they lost Carr, and when Carr came back, he wasn't as good as he was before the injury. Well, guess what? That's going to ruin your defense. So I don't disagree with Speedy. I don't think they were a good defense, Speedy. I think they were a below average or average at best defense. But they clearly were a much better team before they lost Shaheed, before Olave had to deal with the concussions again. Let's hope that guy can come back because he's a real good player. That's really all they have. And the line, it's not the worst. I really like Breesy. Breesy's a really good defensive lineman. He's going to be a great player, I think, if he stays on this track. But again, it's Kellen Moore. It's a guy that's going to hold over. He was the last coach hired. He's a name. He just won the Super Bowl. So they'll give him a couple of years. Because he just won the Super Bowl.
Stop. He didn't win.
It happens every year. It happens every year. An OC from the Super Bowl gets a head coaching job. I mean, Speedy, you'd have to go back and do it for me. But I would say almost every year that's happened. Almost every year.
Well, I do remember
just how it is.
That somebody should have hired Matt Nagy.
When Philadelphia won their last Super Bowl, both their coordinators got jobs. One of them went to Arizona. The other one went to Indianapolis. And honestly, the one in Arizona has done better than the one in Indianapolis. And I will tell you this, Indianapolis, if they don't figure out something quick, pretty much that whole team's going to be completely thrown away again. I mean, honestly, it's crazy what's going on in Indianapolis. So the culture still not, and they drafted Richardson. Oh my God. They're going to be looking at a quarterback this offseason, either a veteran that they're going to bring in to back him up, or are they going to go back into the draft and maybe land a Dart or somebody like that? I mean, I was talking to Jeff, and everybody, me and Jeff were like going back and forth. And I asked him, I said, because he knows a lot about college football, I said, do you think Dart gets in the top 10? And he says, if Dart gets in the top 10, all those teams that are even thinking about drafting him are a bunch of idiots. So he says that he's a running quarterback. He's a mobile quarterback. He doesn't have, I said, so is Lamar Jackson. He said, Lamar Jackson had a good arm. This guy does not have a good arm unless he figures that out when he gets into the NFL. To me, he's one-dimensional. Why would you draft a one-dimensional quarterback in the first round? You have a better chance of going after Quentin Ewers or somebody of that magnitude than going after a guy who's, by the way, Quentin Ewers, who everybody says is undersized. Going after a guy that's one-dimensional. Richardson is one-dimensional. If you watch what he's doing right now in the NFL, he is a one-dimensional quarterback, and he might be as quick as I guess Russell, as far as I'm concerned, as an NFL career. I mean, Russell, how long was he in the NFL as a starting quarterback? 2-3 years? I think Richardson, he was good 1 year, and then he had that shoulder surgery, and he's down the next. I don't know if Richardson will ever be what he was in the first 8 or 9 games of his rookie season.
I don't know why he came out. I mean, you come out because you got the money. He got taken 5th overall. The hype was there. But that guy needed more reps in college. We saw it. We see it all the time. When guys come out a year early, when they haven't had the reps, when they're not a traditional pocket passer, They don't translate well to the NFL ever.
Bo Nix.
And this guy Bo Nix had what 6
4
years, right?
years.
6 years of reps. Jaden
4 years
Daniels,
as a starter,
same
yep.
thing. These guys have the reps. We're starting to see maybe we don't come out early. I always thought that was the problem with Mark Sanchez when the Jets had him. I think he should have stayed in college another year and gotten a little bit more seasoned, and he came in a little too early and had to face the pressure a little too soon.
Mhm.
That's something that, and maybe I heard Pete Carroll say that over the years,
did.
but
Pete Carroll's
I always thought that he just was an incomplete player and he needed a little bit more seasoning. And that's what these guys need to realize. Jackson Dart was a wing T quarterback in high school. That means they threw 2 pass plays a game. They threw a waggle and they threw some kind of, little dump, little play action,
Dumpling?
easy play.
Threw him a dumpling.
And in the wing T. And whenever wing T teams fall behind, they spread it out and they try to chuck it because they don't know what to do. And then they usually lose or they get lucky. And that's how it is with those games. So he's just learning how to play the position of quarterback. And you see flashes with Dart, according to the scouts that I'm looking at. They say that they like him, but no one's saying that he should be in the first round. But again, you don't take a guy in the second round because there's still so many good players available, and you can only keep the quarterback 3 years in the second round. You can keep him with a player option, with a team option for 5 if he's a first round pick. So you might see Dart slip into the back end of the first round, a la Lamar Jackson. But if you're going to think he's Lamar Jackson, I don't have to tell you, man. There may not be a good quarterback in this draft, is what I'm seeing.
I disagree. I think Cam Ward's going to be a good quarterback. So whoever gets Cam, and they're saying Shador, if Shador's sitting there at 3, he's going to the Giants. Everybody's saying it now that if he's sitting there at 3, he's going to the Giants. So
they need Shane. So they need Shane. If Shane does that, my God, people are going to be calling for this guy's head because there's no way he's going to be successful in New York. By the way, speaking of Colorado. Yeah, well, it's not for me. I would never do that. So don't believe that it was me sending those death threats. It was not Aaron Fishman. It was not me.
Hey, it's on record, so we got you. It's on record.
It was not me, everyone. It is 8:49 p.m. Eastern time. So it was not me. But I'll say this: Shane, this is his last chance. That guy. I don't really care. He shouldn't have another chance. They're giving him another chance. He better figure something out. And if he takes Shador Sanders and set this franchise back another couple of years, we can start having a discussion if he was worse than Dave Gettleman.
Dude,
discussion could be.
He's gonna take Shador just to get the fans.
Yeah, he is.
The fans. Oh yeah, the fans are so excited for Shador Sanders. Wait until he throws 3 pick sixes in the first game. The hype
will be crazy for Shador.
We saw him walking around on Radio Row with the hype train. Yeah,
showing his watch.
Great.
Dude, the only people that he was talking to with his entourage was kids. That was the only person that he was talking to. There were a couple of kids that walked up to him to take pictures and autographs of him. That was about it. He walked around like he was Donald Trump. He was King Tut, walking around with his entourage.
Only Gronk rolled deeper on Radio Row than Shador Sanders. Only Gronk. Because Gronk had his whole family with him.
Yep. He was rolling deep, man.
Was Shador as tall as they say he is?
No. Actually, I don't think he was that tall.
He's like 6'2".
Yeah, because we know program height, and then there's real height. So I was just wondering.
He was like my height.
He was. I think Fish, you were a little taller than he was.
I'm like 6'2" and change.
Yeah, I think he was a little tall. I think you were a little taller than he was. When I was standing right next to him, he's not as tall as everybody says he claims he is. Okay. Travis Hunter is taller than he is. So, but just a little bit thinner, a lot thinner.
You know what's real funny? After we interviewed Andre Gerard, former Cowboys center, all-pro center, guess what job he got the next day? Deion Sanders, offensive line coach at Colorado. That's our boy. We got an in with Deion now, Errol.
With who? Why? What are you talking about? I don't get what you're saying.
We have a coach on his staff that we are now friends with.
Who's that?
Andre Gerard. He got hired by Deion the day after we interviewed him.
Oh, how wonderful. Let's go, Andre.
Fish, maybe you can get a Sanders jersey.
I know Errol wants one. He's
for the Giants, Sanders.
You will never, ever, 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 ever watch me wear a Sanders jersey. But
What if the Jets take him now that you guys
if
need
they do it, I will. I tell you this.
Three is
right now,
available.
there's one guy
Pick's
that I
available.
tell you. First of all, if Aaron Glenn ever does that, I will go to the facilities and choke Aaron Glenn out. Okay, I do not want Shedeur Sanders as a new.
I heard his Madden rating is going to be great.
Oh please!
Like they're going to have to take him. I heard that he's already because of the hype, like an
What's his
86.
NCAA
as a
25
rookie.
rating? Maybe they'll base it on that.
I will.
Yeah,
not, I will
Brick,
not wear.
Brick knows what he's doing out there, is what
Well,
I hear.
I will say Andre's fantastic. He's a great personality, and congratulations to Andre. He deserves it. Well deserved. He was
was awesome.
promoting the How Water, and we'll reach out to him. We'll get him on the show again. He is fun. He actually had so much fun with us. He was going around doing interviews with everybody, and he came up to me. He says, "Man, you are one of the craziest SOBs I have ever met. That was so fun." He says, "I would come on your show whenever you guys want." That's what he said to me when I saw him the next day when he was roaming around. He was there for like 2 days, and then you just told me. I didn't know Andre got hired by Deion.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it either. I had to do a double take this morning when I saw it. But
he's our inside source.
He is. He's our inside source into Deion's camp now.
Oh,
I hope, because he was great. But I'll say this: Deion is Deion aside. Let's just finish up this Saints thing. The Saints are not going anywhere. They're going to be looking for a quarterback. The Jets need a quarterback. The Giants need a quarterback. Tennessee needs a quarterback.
Hold on. Everybody keeps saying the Jets need a quarterback. Let's see what Jordan Travis is. I mean, this guy, before he hurt his leg, was considered possibly a first-round draft pick. He broke his leg. It snapped in half. He was a Heisman Trophy candidate. 9 games.
They'll let him compete. They'll let him compete. You know, I'm sure he will. But you've got to draft a quarterback. You're
going to draft a quarterback in this class? I wouldn't.
Shedeur is so good.
No, stop.
You keep telling me.
Stop.
He's so
Stop.
good. He's worth it.
What do you want me to choke you?
I don't think he has an ego at all.
Oh, stop, please. Dude, that guy's head was so far up, whoever's in front of his ass. I've never seen a player have an entourage and he was a nobody. I mean, seriously, this guy was rolling deep. He had like 20 guys. I'm telling you guys.
Were they filming like as he was walking?
No. He was
a little bit of
deep.
that from deeper in the crowd.
Oh my God, they were rolling deep. I was like, who the hell is this? And then finally I looked behind. He turned around. I was like, oh, that's Shedeur Sanders. I mean, there was 20-something guys walking and following this guy. And then I finally saw him turn around. I was like, oh, there's that ass. You know what I mean? So I was waiting for him to show up. Thank God Travis Hunter didn't show up. Then I really would have choked him. So, but we didn't see Travis Hunter at all throughout the time. So that was good. But we were right behind Burrow, Kittle. Yeah. There were a bunch of guys that showed up.
Max Crosby.
Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson was right there by us. It was cool. They were all gracious, but they had a bunch of places that they had to interview. We tried to get them on, but they had a set time wherever they were going. We saw Aaron Jones. I was talking. I know Goody was throwing the ball with Aaron Jones, but Aaron Jones seemed like a pretty down to earth guy. He was eating a lot of wings, man. That guy can eat wings. So, but
those wings were trash.
They were,
record, but that's a whole other story.
They were trash. By the way, those peanuts were trash. I almost choked on them. So,
Jamie Lee in the comment section, so happy the Eagles won. Great to have you guys back. Rattler is awful. Errol's getting violent right now. And that's really Keith defending Deion Sanders. I told you Sanders is going to the Giants. What do you mean there's no way he'll
I know. I got to wear a dress. I remember. I haven't lost. If Shedeur Sanders goes to the Giants, I got to wear a dress and I got to wear.
I'm hearing Abdul Carter's going number 1. Is what I'm hearing. I think he might be the best player, like the Mario Williams type pick a couple of generations ago.
If he does, that means the Browns will not be drafting a quarterback at 2. That means Cam Ward could be sitting there at 3 for the Giants. So
if he is, the Giants take Cam Ward at 3.
100%. They've been scouting him for the last 3 years. I've been hearing that
he's a better prospect. He shows flashes, and he seems like he keeps getting better. Shedeur is what he is. It looks like. And I think he's a career backup. That's just me. Tannehill at best type of guy. That's what I see out of him. He's average arm, average, IQ on the field, and average athleticism. Like at best, he's Baker Mayfield. Like in the best case scenario. That's what I think with him.
Keith says you guys are going to look like morons again after he's drafted top 5 and has a good career, and he thinks Travis Hunter is going to go number 1.
No, he's not. Travis Hunter might fall at a top 5. I'm hearing. That's
I've
what
heard that too, actually.
I was speaking to a big time draft guy. I'm not going to mention any names. I don't want to throw him under the bus. I was talking him off air, and he was telling me that he believes Travis could fall all the way to number 7 or 8. And I said, number 7's the Jets. He better not go to the Jets. I'll friggin' have a heart attack if Travis Hunter goes to the Jets. So he actually predicted that if he does fall to the Jets at 7, the Jets are going to draft him. So I will be very pissed off if I see Travis Hunter go to the Jets. So just letting you guys know. Before we get to our guest, I know he was in and he was out. We have our golf clap of the day.
This deserves a golf clap.
No doubt. Golf clap. Golf clap.
And ladies and gentlemen, our golf clap of the day goes to Nick Sirianni. At Nick Sirianni, who wins his first Super Bowl. He cried at the national anthem once again, so twice crying, and 2 times is the charm as he wins his first Super Bowl. Congratulations to Nick Sirianni on a season that was really, at first, 2-2. They went to their bye, and everybody was questioning where this team was going. Do they fire Nick Sirianni, and do they look towards maybe bringing in a new coach in the middle of a season? Well, they lasted with him. They moved on after the bye week, and they went on an 8-game. No, actually, they went on an 8 or 9 game winning streak before they lost their first game of the season, their third game of the season, and just completely dominated everybody on the defensive side of the ball with Vic Fangio. The coach always is the one that picks the next defensive coordinator and the offensive coordinator. He brought in Kellen Moore and he brought in Vic Fangio, and he was right. He was right with both guys. Very successful offseason, bringing in both guys, and then obviously bringing in and been a part of development of DeJean and Mitchell, and then bringing in Braun, who obviously helped the defense. I think it was a sensational year for Nick Sirianni. I think he deserves more credit than people give him. He's the head coach. I don't care what anybody says. Everybody, you give the coach a lot of credit when you win, and you give your coach a lot of discredited stuff when they lose. And honestly, he deserves a lot of credit for the success of this team, especially going to the playoffs where everybody thought Washington was going to run all over them and had a good game plan against that Washington team and Jaden Daniels and Dan Quinn. So our golf clap of the day goes to the head coach of the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, Nick Sirianni, ladies and gentlemen. And now, ladies and gentlemen, before we get our very special guest, Kenny Rosenthal, we're going to go to our Sports Minute with Tommy Poops giving us the scoop.
This is the Jabba and the Mouth Sports Minute.
All right. The Super Bowl is all set in stone. So starting off with the NBA, the Mavericks point guard Kyrie Irving is actually set to replace his new teammate Anthony Davis in the All-Star game. It was also announced earlier today that Trae Young will also be replacing Giannis Antetokounmpo in the All-Star game as well. Meanwhile, over in LA, the Lakers are giving away free Luka Doncic t-shirts to every fan that is in attendance today for Luka's Lakers debut tonight versus the Jazz at 10:30 p.m. And to finish things up, the Pacers announced that they're going to be signing veteran center Jahlil Okafor to a 10-day contract. Now, keeping it with the NBA, 4 scoops and scores now. The Nets currently have a 66-54 lead over the Hornets, while the Cavaliers have a dominant 105-81 lead over the Timberwolves in the fourth quarter. While also in the fourth quarter, the Hawks and Magic currently tied up at 88 points apiece, while the Spurs have a 110-102 lead over the Wizards. The Celtics currently hold a 70-54 lead over the Heat, while the Warriors hold a 50-46 lead over the Bucks. The Thunder currently have a 66-38 lead over the Pelicans, while the Kings hold a 23-22 lead over the Mavericks. And with that is all the time I have for you guys right now. Kicking it back to the boys for their next guest on Jabba and the Mouth.
Any questions?
This is the Jabba and the Mouth Show.
631-672-3108 is the number to call. You're listening to Jabba and the Mouth Go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including Jabba in the Mouth every single Mondays and Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. All you have to do to tune in and check out our local listings for all our shows is go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. And Jabba in the Mouth is brought to you by Ice Shaker, ladies and gentlemen. Founded by former NFL fullback Chris Gronkowski, Ice Shaker was developed with one goal in mind: to help people live an active and healthy lifestyle by providing them with an ultimate drinking vessel for nutrition and hydration needs. Go to iceshaker.com and shop all their official licensed collections from Marvel to Star Wars and much more. Enjoy free shipping when you spend over $50 or more. Go to iceshaker.com to check out their great products and deals. Ladies and gentlemen, you can even get your Ice Shaker of Jabba in the Mouth, which I've showed you plenty of times, and I gave mine away over there at the Super Bowl. So shout out to the kid that I gave my Ice Shaker to. And now, ladies and gentlemen, he's been waiting quite carefully and patiently. We're now talking to the athletic senior MLB writer, Ken Rosenthal. Ken, what's up, buddy?
Good to be with you, man. I assume you're the mouth. I've kind of figured.
I am the mouth. That's right. I am a little out there. We've had a long week. We were over there at Super Bowl 59. Interviewed.
Oh, cry me a river. Let's go.
Oh, come on, Kenny. You should have came. You should have came and hung out with us. We would have hung out with you, and you probably would have said, and I got to get out of here early before I have a heart attack. But,
Actually, I've been to a few Super Bowls. I've covered a few, and it's a lot of fun. And I know Radio Row's a little wild, so I imagine it was quite a week.
You look good, man. And by the way, I just want to let you know before we get into it, I know your cousin Ernie. He actually works with my uncle.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
Ernie was telling me a load of things about you, and we could talk off air, but he told me some great things about you and all the things that you've done and all your growth as a broadcaster and an analyst and what you've been doing right now with the Athletic. It's been incredible what you've been doing for the MLB and what you've done with the Athletic over the last couple of years.
Well, I used to sleep on Ernie's floor once in a while, so it's nice he says good things about me because I don't know that he had to.
He did tell me that, by the way. You were living at his house for a little while, but let's get into it. It's been quite a unique offseason for the New York Yankees and New York Mets. The Yankees lose Soto. He goes to the Mets. The Mets sign him for $700 and some bodacious contract. What was it? $765 million. It's ridiculous. And then the Yankees spread out the wealth. They get Max Fried. They added a relief pitcher. They added some, quality arms and quality bats to their lineup. What were your thoughts to the offseason for the New York Yankees and New York Mets?
The Mets obviously wanted Soto, got Soto, and it did affect the rest of their offseason, but they have never been under David Stearns, and I don't know that they ever will be a team that invests long-term in starting pitching. So the question with this team as we enter the season is not their lineup with Soto and Alonso now. It's going to be really good. My question is going to be their starting pitching, and will it be good enough? And as for the Yankees, I thought they recovered well. And obviously, when you get the star caliber players that they acquired, Max Fried, Devin Williams, these guys are big time in the sport. Paul Goldschmidt has a big time legacy in the sport. And they seem to me to be a team that is going to be okay. Probably the class of the American League still, even without Soto, because the American League is not what it was when Jabba was playing. At the same time, they could use one more infielder. They're kind of lacking there. And I just want to see it all come together for them and see how it comes together, because they still have some of the same questions that they had at the end of last season. Are they athletic enough? Are they good enough defensively? We're going to find out, and Cody Bellinger certainly will help in that regard, but I'm still not sure that they're going to be at the level of some of the better teams in the National League, put it that way.
So I want to ask about Pete Alonso specifically, because it took a while for him to sign. I think there were a lot of negotiations that were very difficult. Do you think that has to do with the impact that maybe right-handed hitters, especially something like first base, not being as much of a premium anymore?
Yes, and it's first base. It's the age, going into his early 30s. It's not the most athletic guy in the world. I don't want to dismiss Pete Alonso when he's accomplished. He's had a great career, and he is one of the elite sluggers in the game. But is he an above-average defender? No. Is he an above-average base runner? No. And in this day and age, it's a little different than when Jabba played, for instance. they value that all around contribution that a player can make. And when guys are more one dimensional, it's tougher for them in free agency. Now, Soto, in some ways, is one dimensional too. He's not a great defender, he's not a great base runner, but he is so young and so elite a hitter that obviously the Mets saw fit and other teams saw fit too to give him more than $700 million.
Ken, do you think, obviously Bregman still being out there, do you think everybody's worried about the years or his age or a combination of both? Because I figured, I mean, obviously being able to, show his pedigree and didn't have the greatest year, but still above average third baseman in the postseason, knows how to win. And I just find it, I mean, spring training is literally here and he's still waiting. So is it his age or is it the years? Because here in 6 to 7, and they're like, well, he won't be as effective because he's in his 30s. Is it a little bit of both, or are they just like don't want to come off the money?
It's a little bit age. It's a little bit the agent. It's a little bit that he's had some decline the last couple of years. And clearly, the question is going to be with him, does he get to 6 to 7 years? Does he beat what Houston offered, which was 6 years, $156 million in a state without income tax? That's a big thing when these guys look at contracts now. Or does he settle for the kind of deal, not quite as short as Alonso's, but the same kind of thing? Short-term, high average annual value with opt-outs. He seems to feel, Boris, his agent, Scott Boris, seems to feel that they're going to get the long-term deal. That's what they've been saying for weeks now. We haven't seen it yet. So I'm very interested to see how this turns out. There are teams that want Alex Bregman. With Alonso, it was really two teams. It was the Toronto Blue Jays and it was the Mets. That's all we knew publicly. With Bregman, we know the Red Sox, we know the Tigers, the Blue Jays, the Cubs, and of course the Astros. So I'm not sure where this is going, Jabba, but it's going to be really interesting to see how it turns out because Scott Boras took him, Bregman, from another agent a few years ago. And when that happens, there are expectations that get increased. Happened with Alonso too. He took Alonso from another agent. And when you do that, you're telling the player, listen, I can do better for you. And right now that hasn't happened. Doesn't mean it won't happen. Doesn't mean Alonso, for that matter, won't get the monster deal in the end. If he opts out after this year, maybe he does. But right now, Alex Bregman is still sitting out there, so we have all these questions.
We are talking to the Athletic senior MLB writer, Ken Rosenthal. Kenny, we've been arguing about this really for the last 3 months. And this deferred money that the Dodgers are really just imploding in the MLB. And it's been around for a long, long time, but they're the only team that's really, using this to their ability. Do you look at this deferred money for the next, I think the next CBA deal, I think, is in 2026. Do you see, baseball trying to figure this out and try to stop this? Because this, to me, is unfair right now. Does this help baseball or does it make it worse?
Earl, a lot of people are asking this question, but it's in the CBA. The league does not mind players deferring money, and the union does not mind players deferring money. Now, Rob Manfred, the commissioner, has said there comes a point where you might be worried, but people don't really understand necessarily how the deferrals work. It's not as if you can just wait until 2034 or whatever the year might be to start paying it out. You've got 2 years from the time you sign the player. I believe it's 2 years, and you have to fund it. You have to put the money away and invest it, however you do it. And there are certain rules and regulations the team has to follow in putting that money away. It can't go in certain kinds of accounts. It can only go in pretty safe ones. So every team has the ability to do this. Now, obviously, the Dodgers have more money than almost everybody perhaps, but they're not doing anything wrong. Now, might the Dodgers and their spending force this big issue in the CBA? Is that an excuse the other owners are going to use to complain that they need a salary cap? That could be. I can see that happening, but it won't be over the deferrals per se. It will be over their overall spending.
So the Padres are another team that's kind of on the fringe right now. There's been thought of them trading either two of their top pitchers with Cease and King, and then Luis Ariz has been trading in trade rumors for a while. Do you expect any of those players, or maybe even multiple of those, to be traded?
Robert Suarez, the closer, is the one that probably has the best chance of getting traded. And it's unclear to me, guys, what the Padres are doing here as far as where they are financially. It's unclear how much that lawsuit between the late Peter Seidler's widow and his brothers for control of the team is having on their operation right now. So it could be that this is just a normal regression in their payroll, actually, which is higher than last year, but it's not a situation where they're spending. It's higher because they have guys that are getting raises, guys that they acquired, like Arias and Cease, who are now part of the payroll. So I'm not sure what's driving this and where it's going to end, but certainly all of those guys have been in trade discussions. And I will say this, generally speaking, their general manager, AJ Preller, a really creative guy. We all know that. And with guys entering their walk years, he's going to listen on them. Actually, most teams will. They're going to at least listen and see if they can get value for that player, if they don't believe they can sign him. And that might be only what the Padres are doing here. Maybe they don't have a true intent of trading any of those guys unless they get exactly what they want in return.
What's the latest on Nolan moving? Is he going to stay? I mean, yeah, he's getting older, but I think he's such a good fit as a clubhouse guy, and still, can play third base and still gap to gap guy and can give you some production. Is there any chance that he's going to move, or is he staying put?
But he's moving, and if he doesn't move in spring or now, he'll move at the deadline. But I expect he's going to move because basically that situation's untenable. He doesn't want to be there. They don't want him there. And granted, he has a no trade, and he blew up a trade with the Houston Astros, and that is his right. But at some point, after Bregman signs, I expect this to get resolved. And clearly, the Bregman situation is having an impact on this. Where Arenado wants to go, and this has been reported pretty widely, is Boston. He would be happy there. He actually would be happy with the Yankees too, but the Yankees seem to have reached their budget limit. The Red Sox should not have reached their limit. I don't know if they feel they are at their limit, but that's a team where his former teammate Trevor Story is. That's a team where he'd fit really well. They'd have to do something with Devers, DH-wise, and maybe Devers wouldn't be so happy about that. But for Nolan Arenado, Rafael Devers would probably say, you know what, he's a better defender than me, and we'll figure this out from the lineup perspective. So I do expect this to get some momentum once Bregman signs, but until that happens, until there's an obvious spot, I don't see it really getting any traction.
Vlad Guerrero has been in so many trade talks, and there are conversations that if he becomes a free agent, the Mets are going to pay him $500, $600 million. They'll give him whatever he wants because he's friends with Lindor, he's friends with Soto, and that's where he's going. What are your thoughts? Do you think Vlad gets traded in the middle of the season at the trade deadline, or does the Blue Jays hold on to him and try to re-sign him at the end of next season?
The first question is whether he signs an extension before their first full day of workouts, which is February 18th. That's something the Blue Jays want to get done. They have a lot of money, obviously, that they haven't spent because so many guys have turned them down in the last 2 years. But I'm not convinced he wants to sign an extension with them when he can go out into the market in just 1 year, actually less than that, 8 months or so, and be a top free agent, the top free agent in next year's class. And he'd have the Mets, he'd have a number of teams. The Yankees could be in the mix too for him. So the odds of that extension happening, I'd say probably are 50-50. I expect the Jays to tempt him. I expect them to make him an offer that's going to be well into an area where he says, maybe I should take this. But at the same time, he would be a free agent entering his age 27 season. I know he's a first baseman, but he's an elite hitter. And he probably on the open market would do really well still, and he'd have his choice of teams at that point.
The Cleveland Guardians, what are your thoughts of them? They trade Josh Naylor, Lane Thomas a year after they make the ALCS. Where do they go from here? And do you think that their payroll, another team that is lower on the list, do you think they could still make it?
They're a really interesting team always because they operate under pretty severe financial restrictions. Their owners do not spend all that much. So this offseason, you mentioned the Naylor trade. They also traded their second baseman, Andres Jimenez, who a couple of years ago was the Platinum Glove winner in the league. He's one of the great defenders in the sport. The offense isn't so great. So that's their first baseman and their second baseman. Now they've brought in Carlos Santana. They've got some young guys at second base that they're going to try. First is a guy named Brito, and then the great draft pick, Travis Bazzana from last year's draft. They'll be okay. They'll be competitive. They've got Bieber coming back, hopefully at midseason. They have made some other additions that they're reasonably excited about, but it's tough the way they do it. They thread the needle every single season, and you do that in a division that's getting more competitive. Detroit is better, and they'll get even better if they get Bregman. the Royals have done quite a bit the last 2 off seasons, and the Minnesota Twins probably still have the most talent in the division, even though their 2 big guys, Buxton and Correa, are injury prone. So at some point, the Guardians might crash a little bit, or at least decline a little bit, but I don't know if it's this year. They always seem to exceed our expectations.
And have one of the most underrated players in baseball, and Jose Ramirez. Just have to throw that in there.
Absolutely right. No argument.
Do you think with the way these contracts are going right now and just the crazy numbers that keep coming up, and do you think there'll ever be a salary cap or some type of cap in place? Not necessarily a salary cap. Obviously, we have the collective bargaining tax and all that. But do you think there will ever be, and I know the unions fought for it forever to not have one, do you think there will ever be any legs for them to, as the owners, to try and cap it?
Well, Jabba, you remember this when you were a player. They try every collective bargaining negotiation, and the players fight it, and they fight it, and they're going to fight it again. I expect the owners will try. I expect the players will fight it, and I expect we're going to have a lockout in the year 2027 because this is the way this seems to be going. Now, I hope I'm wrong, but there's a lot of talk already among the ownership circles, the club circles, that this is the way they want to go, and this is something the sport absolutely needs. I think it's a bogus thing to say. Sport generated a record amount of revenue last season, $12.1 billion. Obviously, it's not broken. There are things that need to be done to maybe make it more equitable from a financial perspective. We all get that. And there are things that can be done. But a cap in this sport, I still see it as a long shot because of the players' vehement opposition to it. Now, you could say, well, wait a second. When you have a salary cap, the players get a certain percentage of the revenue. And isn't there a percentage where they would be satisfied? That, to me, is the question here. But even then, the arguments then would become not about the cap anymore, but about the percentage and about what the owners are declaring as revenue and what is not being declared as revenue. So it's just shifting the argument. It's not really solving the problem. I don't know that it can ever be solved. The sport is built differently than the NFL. The NFL is built on the national television contract, and that is distributed fairly and equitably to all the teams. Baseball teams, or the baseball league, Major League Baseball, is based on local revenue, attendance, local television contracts. It's not the same. There is a national television package, different networks involved, but that money is not as big as it is in the NFL, where it actually is every game is on a network television broadcast. So I don't know where it's going exactly, but I do expect a fight.
We are talking to the Athletic senior MLB writer, Ken Rosenthal. Before we let you go, Kenny, because I know you're a busy guy, me and Jabba have been going back and forth with this argument for the last, I would say, 3 months, okay? So I want to know your honest opinion. We've gone back and forth with the 2 MVPs. He's got Ohtani for what Ohtani did this year, 636 at-bats, 197 hits, 54 home runs, batting .310, 130 RBIs, 59 stolen bases to Aaron Judge's 559 at-bats, 180 hits, 58 home runs, 322, and 144 RBIs. Who do you think, if you were to put these guys back and forth, back together, a DH against an everyday player, who would you take if they were fighting for the MVP of the whole league? Who would you take as the MVP of last year?
That's a great question, and I actually haven't thought about it that way. I only was thinking about it in terms of each league. I would take Judge because he does play defense. For last year, I would take Judge. And Ohtani, the reason he won National League MVP is because he put himself so far above with his offense, even Lindor. He was incredible all year long offensively, did things that were historic. So did Judge, of course. Judge had arguably his best year, and he did it while playing center field. Now, you might say his metrics in center field weren't all that great. That's true, but he held down the position. He didn't embarrass himself out there. I know Game 5 was an exception, of course, but he played an average center field, in my opinion. I know the numbers say it's below average, but again, you didn't see many balls that got by him that you were saying, hey, what's up with that? So I would go with Judge last year, but it's an interesting question for sure. It's a fascinating question. I don't know if there's a right answer, but this year Ohtani is back on the mound and the equation changes.
Oh, I'm sure.
He won't steal 59 this year, I'll tell you that much.
that was my argument with Jabba. I mean, I said, if he was on the mound, does he steal 59 bases? And the answer would be no. But that puts him in harm's way. But
He probably won't. I bet he doesn't even steal half of that next year because we obviously
agree,
saw what
Jabba.
he did sliding in his shoulder. So
Yeah.
he's not going to risk that again.
Kenny, you're awesome, man. And we definitely got to get you on more often. You do such a great job with The Athletic. I check out all your stuff. And like I said, Ernie's been telling me, he's like, this guy, you got to get him on the show. He's funny. He's outgoing. He knows his stuff. You're the best, obviously. We all know what you do for the MLB, and you're on every single show. You go on the Pat McAfee show. You're on every single show. So we're just happy to have you on. Jabba told me that you guys were talking and that you would be honored to come on, and we're very happy to have you on, man. You're fantastic.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Ken.
Take care,
Kenny
Jabba.
Rosenthal, ladies and gentlemen, one of the best in the business. And as you heard, I mean, Jabba, you heard it. He's got Aaron Judge.
Yeah, just last year. I'll give you that one.
Woo! I'm just kidding. I just love messing around with you, man. I love.
All right, let's have this conversation next year when he's got like 9 wins.
There it is.
Yeah, believe it.
Oh man,
What is this weapon of choice? Is what I'm
Is that a
curious.
flamethrower? That thing's sick.
Flamethrower that looks like a hunting rifle at the same time.
Speaking of flamethrowers, Fox Sports Jay Glazier, which I saw, and by the way, Mike Catino told me, reach out to Jay. He's great, blah, 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 blah. Couldn't get a chance to speak to him because he had an entourage of people following him. Reports that the Jets have told Aaron Rodgers that he will not be back next season. Aaron Glenn reportedly texted Rodgers about having discussions with him, but ultimately the Jets' new regime wanted to move on from Rodgers, saying it is not just about Rodgers, it's about the whole team. If the Jets release Aaron Rodgers after the new league year on March 12th, they will have to pay him $14 million of dead cap hit this year and $35 million the next year. CJ Mosley said that Aaron Rodgers should not leave New York with his head down and said that the Jets' problems were not his fault. Quinnen Williams, in a now deleted tweet, took shots at the Jets that he is on another rebuilding team. He has since deleted the Twitter account altogether. The Steelers are the betting favorites to be Rodgers' next team at plus 200, followed by the Raiders, 49ers, and Vikings. Here's what I'm going to say. Aaron Rodgers retires. I do not believe he's going to any one of those teams. I can't see him playing for the Steelers. I cannot see him playing for the Raiders. Why would he go over there and play for Pete Carroll? The 49ers are interesting because he's always wanted to play for the 49ers. He's from that, he's from that area. He grew up a big time Joe Montana fan. Why not go over there and try to win one and win their first championship since Steve Young and Joe Montana? That would be interesting, but I can't see him going over there. And the Vikings, give me a break. There's no way he goes to the Vikings. It's either Sam Darnold or they go with the kid, McCarthy. I don't see McCarty, right? Is McCarty? McCarthy, I'm sorry. So I honestly see this to be pretty interesting on why they're bringing up teams and trying to figure out where he's going next. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's retiring. I think he's going to call it quits. I think he's done enough to really be considered as one of the top 4 quarterbacks of all time. Even this year, when everybody was questioning, oh, look at his numbers. Look at this. Look, he couldn't win with the Jets. If you look at his numbers were pretty durable. I don't care what anybody says. We've interviewed a couple of people at the Super Bowl at Radio Row and telling me numbers lie when it comes to statistics. You can't really look at the numbers. Well, here's the thing. You gave the MVP to Josh Allen, who had 28 touchdowns and I think 7 or 8 interceptions, and he had over, I think, 3,800 yards or 3,900 yards. To Aaron Rodgers, 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and 3,800 yards. He had almost identical numbers to Josh Allen. Now, obviously, Josh Allen won the AFC East, took his team all the way to the AFC title game, and I'm not saying that Aaron Rodgers is Josh Allen now, But to sit here and say that Aaron Rodgers bombed, those statistics were the best statistics we've seen a Jets quarterback have since Fitzpatrick. To sit here and say that Aaron Rodgers was not good this year is ridiculous. Now, does he cause a problem in the locker room? Yes. Does he cause problem to the media when he opens up his mouth? Yes. But I don't see him going to another team. Why would he do that? It doesn't make any sense. Now, as far as Jake Glazer coming out and saying it, Aaron Rodgers, as far as what I saw with Aaron Glenn's, interview and at the press conference and press coverage of his introduction to the New York Jets, he pretty much said, buckle your seatbelts to the players, which tells me that it's going to be a long ride, which tells me that I don't think the Jets care that they have to pay a cap of 14 this year and 35 next year because they don't expect to win for the next 2 years. They expect to compete, but all in all, they expect it to take at least 3 to 4 years to get this team into a contending, operations. Now, I do believe Quinn Williams coming out and saying that thought of making this a rebuilding year. I understand how angry he is. I believe it's going to push out Garrett Wilson and maybe even Sauce Gardner. I don't know. I do know that Aaron Glenn is a likable person. I have a bunch of people that I've never met Aaron Glenn, but I know a bunch of people that know Aaron Glenn and know him to be a great football mind, a great person, educator. And I think he's going to help some of these young guys. I've heard that DJ Reed at first said that he doesn't want to go back to the Jets. And then all of a sudden, when he heard Aaron Glenn was going to be the new next head coach for the New York Jets, that he was thinking about maybe coming back to the Jets. I do not believe DJ Reed will be back. I think the Jets are going young. I do. I think the Jets are going to go young now. I think it makes a lot of sense why the Jets are deciding to move on from Aaron Rodgers. I understand why the players are upset. CJ Mosley's not coming back next year. You're going to see all the veteran players gone. It is going to be a rebuilding stage. Now, that doesn't mean that the Jets can't win and they can't compete in an AFC East that has Miami, who I'm not going to bet. Tyreek Hill could be on his way out. I don't even know if Tyreek Hill I'm going to predict that Tyreek Hill gets traded to the Kansas City Chiefs this offseason. That's my prediction. I do not see him staying in Miami after all the things he said. Waddle, he can't. Now, he's been healthy over the last couple of years, but now he's becoming the number one guy. I don't know if you could trust that, and this defense is not trustworthy. Buffalo, I mean, Buffalo had a great year. Do you trust that Buffalo is going to consistently do what they did this year? I don't know, as their coach could be on the hot seat if he doesn't get this team to the Super Bowl. And then the New England Patriots that are, again, starting over with a new coach, new offensive scheme. Obviously, Josh McDaniels is there, but they don't know if Drake May is the guy. They're going to have to see where this team is. They have no number one wide receivers. They're in a rebuilding stage. So could the Jets actually come out of the AFC or AFC East and maybe win 9 to 10 games with the roster they have? Yeah, why not? Why couldn't they? I don't know why they couldn't, but they don't have a quarterback, and they're going to have to decide what they're doing. Losing Aaron Rodgers and paying him $14 million of dead cap space is a lot of money. And the year after, that's horrible. That's going to affect them. That's why this year, going into the offseason and the draft, is going to be a very important draft for the New York Jets. And the reason why is there is no quarterback in this class that you can say it's a slam dunk. So they're going to have to be very smart about how and the way they're going to draft. Do they go after an offensive lineman at number 7? Do they go after a defensive player? Or do they try to move up and get one of those two quarterbacks? I don't know. The questions will sit on Aaron Glenn's lap, 3 or 4 days before the draft. So it's interesting. I'm not surprised Aaron Rodgers isn't coming back.
Yeah, we were talking about it when Aaron Glenn first got hired. It was going to be a transition year either way because the Jets are trying to get younger. They're trying to reestablish themselves with the Lions type culture, a Dan Campbell type culture over there to the Jets. And the Jets have always been known for their flash. They've always been known for these big names. Woody Johnson likes to bring in these high priced free agents, and it hasn't worked in the past. And as a result, that they tried to rebuild the team in the other mold, and then they decided to bring in Aaron Rodgers, just two styles that don't clash very well. And we were talking about it with like Joe Douglas. We were talking about Howie Roseman. Like, he did a great job building up the Eagles roster the way they did. There's one blemish is he catered to Chip Kelly and had to rebuild that whole thing. And Joe Douglas did the same thing. He catered to Aaron Rodgers. It didn't work. So now they're trying to rebuild everything in the other mold to try to rebuild it organically, like you saw the Lions do. And I think the Jets are going to try to do that. That's why they are already pushing away Aaron Rodgers. They're saying that the culture needs to change with this team. Now, okay, Quentin Williams doesn't like it. Maybe that's a bad start to what Aaron Glenn's trying to do.
He just signed a big contract. He should be bitching and moaning. Him and his brother got what they wanted. Quincy Williams got a contract. What was it? A year ago?
Right.
He signed a 3 or 4 year deal. And Quinn Williams just got an 8 or 9 year deal where he's a Jet for life. And he's sitting here complaining about it. He's one of the highest paid defensive linemen in all of football. And he's nowhere close to some of the guys that we've mentioned.
Yeah, I also think Quentin Williams is also a guy that's been frustrated with other people in the past, where that might be something that's an Aaron Glenn, more of a project for him and not a blemish on Aaron Glenn by any means, because Quentin Williams is one of the ones taking shots at Zach Wilson, one of the ones that was taking shots at Mike LaFleur in the past. So I think that's something that's more of a him issue. We'll see it. You're right on these other guys that are going to be free agents after next season. If they could get that to work, obviously it's a good thing for Sauce having another former corner to help you out as a head coach in Aaron Glenn. DJ Reed, I agree with you. He's old. He's not going.
He's going to make Sauce Gardner into one of the. He's already one of the best. With Aaron Glenn, he could go down if he stays there with the Jets. He can go down as one of the greatest corners of all time if he listens to Aaron Glenn. This guy was a 4-time top end corner. For 4 years, this guy was a top 5 corner in the league. You can't even argue. And at one point, he was a top 3 corner in football. So for anybody to sit back and say that this guy can't help Sauce Gardner had an off season this year. He was not as good as what we saw the first 2 years. This guy was an all-pro his first 2 years and a pro ball player. This year, he's fallen off. He has not been the same player. So maybe a transition and a change. Michael Carter, too, is going to be a better player with Aaron Glenn there. So I think he's going to absolutely change the way some of these defensive-minded players are going to play in front of him. As far as Quinn Williams coming out and throwing people under the bus, he's done this over the last couple of years. Quinn Williams has been there a long time. He if you remember, this guy was drafted, 5-6 years ago? I mean, he's been there a long time from Alabama. I think Quinn Williams needs to shut his mouth, because if you look at Quinn Williams' numbers, he's making almost the same amount of money as Sexy Dexy right now. Sexy Dexy, to me, is by far better than Quinn Williams is right now. It's not even an argument. Dexter Lawrence is one of the top 2 defensive linemen in the league. Quinn Williams was a higher rated player, and Quinn Williams got paid before Dexter Lawrence, and he's not doing what he did the year before he got his contract. So I think Quinn Williams needs to shut his mouth and just go out there and do what he's supposed to do, and stop opening his mouth about, you want Aaron Rodgers back in that locker room with everything that's gone over the last 8 months, all that craziness, and him going to all these different shows and showing his face on all these different events. That's not good for football. That's not good for your team. Aaron Glenn wants that out of the locker room. He wants this team to play his way of football, not Aaron Rodgers' way of football. And that's coming from an Aaron Rodgers fan.
And Quinn Williams, you were talking about compared to Dexter Lawrence's contract. There were some other defensive tackles, Jeffrey Simmons, Ed Oliver, a few others that got paid in that offseason too. And Quinn Williams, I think since that time, has not even played as well as them. And he's had some double teams. Yeah, fine. You want to say that. There's a lot of the injuries that they've had, but still, his numbers were definitely down last year. And the Jets pass rush was really good, even still amidst all that. So yeah, he's definitely has to make an attitude change. And you will see with this Lions defensive scheme how it can work. They played a lot of hybrid concepts, but they also played very physically. And I think they're going to still keep doing that. As far as the offensive side of the ball, the other thing that's going to be interesting is how they're going to keep the relationship with Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall, because they're also free agents coming up as well. And Garrett Wilson's had his mishaps with Aaron Rodgers and the Jets offensive coaching in the past. Will that kind of thing linger on with the new system as a whole? Now they're bringing in some Lions guys to help out. They're bringing some Broncos guys and Sean Payton guys to help out. Seems like an optimistic type thing for good, stable cultures. But still, I think you look at Garrett Wilson, just the way he is, he's kind of been a little bit of a prima donna too. So you're going to have to try to turn that around.
They're all going to be gone.
Yeah.
Garrett Wilson's going to be gone. Watch it. I'm telling you right now, Garrett Wilson's going to be traded in the next year or two.
That's what I think's the most likely.
I think he's going to be traded. Quinn Williams is opening his mouth. He will be gone. I'm telling you, Aaron Glenn is going to be a drill sergeant. He comes from a guy that is always been that way. The Giants way was always that way. If you don't do what I tell you, Bill Parcells tells you, you're not going to be here. And he's a Bill Parcells guy. I could see Aaron Glenn getting rid of Garrett Wilson, a first-round draft pick for Garrett Wilson. I could see Quinn Williams. You can get a first-round draft pick for Quinn Williams and rebuild through those positions. And I'm telling you, you don't see Quincy Williams going out there and throwing himself under the bus. Quinn Williams just needs to shut his mouth. He's gotten everything he wanted, including his brother, which, by the way, a guy named Joe actually made a trade for from the Jaguars.
So how long do you think realistically do they just yard sale everything? Obviously, we know it's going to be rebuilding or whatever. Like, is it 2-3 years? It's like, hey, we know what we're doing, but how before they just basically are like, all right, boom. All right, let's blow this up and basically crawl before we walk.
I don't think they're blowing anything up.
They're not going to blow anything up.
No.
They're just going to get rid of their two older defensive players, DJ Reed and CJ Mosley, like we talked about. Garrett Wilson, that decision will have to be made based on this year, both attitude-wise and statistically-wise, how he plays. Quinnen Williams has 3 years left on his contract, so they'll have time to decide with him, but it's just more of an attitude problem with him as well.
I think Quinnen Williams is going to be gone a lot sooner than later. And Quinnen Williams hasn't shown me as a fan what he is getting paid on the field. He is not showing up to the field. I know he's getting double and triple team, but we've seen Jones do that. Chris Jones has been pushed around and being double teamed. He's getting to the quarterback. There's no excuse for Quinnen Williams. And as far as Garrett Wilson has been a prima donna since he's come to this team. He's had 2 good seasons, back-to-back years, and even this year with Aaron Rodgers. He was bitching and moaning. Him and Aaron Rodgers were fighting on the field in the locker room, and during the preseason games we saw him. And now he's sitting here and saying that without Aaron Rodgers they can't win. That's a bunch of bull crap, okay? Go out there and earn your money. You want a big-time contract? You want to be one of the highest-paid wide receivers? Go out there and give the Jets 1,500 yards. You had a chance to do that this year, even with Devontae Adams there, and you still couldn't do that. And that's a bunch of crap. And Garrett Wilson's got to shut his mouth. Do I think he's going to be gone? I think Garrett Wilson is gone. Garrett Wilson is gone. I think Quinnen Williams is going to be gone. And whoever opens their mouth, anything that you hear, Jabba, in the next year, I see those guys being gone.
I just think you have to blow it up right now. Like, if you're going to get rid of all those guys.
There's
If you're going to get rid of
it's not really a
Garrett
blow
Wilson,
up. They have enough young guys.
That's just
but
not,
if you want to trade, if you're going to trade all those guys, why not get draft capital now?
because right now this draft is not the class that you want to just trade those pieces away.
You could get some offensive linemen and some defensive linemen. It's a good offensive lineman.
Yeah, but this is
They
not.
don't need defensive linemen.
Yeah, that's it. I don't think they need.
But if they're
defensive
getting rid of Quinnen Williams, like you said, why wouldn't you go get another defensive lineman to replace him?
because right now I think the best defensive lineman is probably going 1 or 2. So
Yeah, but here's the deal. If you give Aaron Glenn, if you're saying there's nothing to blow up, they don't have a quarterback still. You're getting rid of all these players that
we don't know
have
that.
bad attitudes. I don't think Benjamin's going to be anything.
Jordan Travis.
Or Jordan Travis, sorry. Yeah.
Well, how do you know that? How do you know that? This kid
He's coming off a major surgery.
That's fine. He's been out of
And
the game for a year and a half, and he's been getting stronger. Everything that I've heard about him is he's throwing the ball really, really well. He's moving inside and out of the pocket. We've seen quarterbacks come back from this. Dak Prescott snapped his leg in half. He came back and he was an MVP candidate. To say that Jordan Travis can't do that, this guy was up for a high. He was going to be a Heisman Trophy candidate before he went down the way he did. So to say that Jordan Travis can't do it, it depends on the coach. It depends.
I don't know if I would bank on that.
I'm not telling you to bank. Again,
no, they'll bring in multiple.
First of all, and I'm going to go back. I'm not banking on anything. You can't bank on any quarterback. You're going to bank on Shedeur Sanders? I'm not going to bank on him after what I've heard about him. Are you going to bank on Cam Ward? No, I'm not going to bank on him. I mean, Jalen Hurts. We've heard that. Remember that? When he came into the league, he was a second-round draft pick. People were like, oh, my God. They had a quarterback. They had Carson Wentz there. He was a top 3 pick. And everybody says, why did they draft him there? Oh, well, maybe because they saw something in Jalen Hurts. Maybe other people didn't see. And look, Jalen Hurts was a Super Bowl champion when everybody thought he was a one-dimensional quarterback. To say that, oh, you're not going to bank, nobody's banking on it. But nobody's going to sit here and say, Jordan Travis can't be the guy. He's never got a chance. Give the kid a chance and see what he can do.
If he's a guy, it's because he has the same skill as Jalen Hurts, and that's leadership. That's the skill that makes Jalen Hurts great. It's an intangible, right? There's no way to truly measure that. But when you see him with his teammates and you see them play together, it's not like certain teams where it doesn't feel like guys are picking people up else up off the floor. It doesn't seem like that they're all in it together. Jalen Hurts has this team on the same page with him. You could say that's Sirianni. Maybe it is in part Sirianni, but it always starts and ends with the quarterback as far as how that works, because the coach can't play on the field, right? So I have some stats for you, Maybe Jordan Travis is that guy, but they're going to need it
But
because Aaron Rodgers was terrible this year. And here's the stats that
Hurts
tell
is a
you that he was
better
terrible.
athlete.
100%, 100%. But here's the stats. So Rich Samini puts this out on Twitter earlier today, and I saved it because I thought this was going to come up. QBR, Aaron Rodgers ranked 25th in the NFL. Completion percentage, 30th in the NFL. Third last out of starters. Completion over expected, 34th, worse than a couple of backups. Yards per attempt, which is a very important stat, 28th, meaning he doesn't get pushed the ball downfield because he's old. TD to INT ratio, where he was always the best in the league, middle of the pack at 14th. That was his best stat of this bunch. And off-target percentage, which was never his thing, 24th, and they were 5-12. That's a losing quarterback. He's done. He should retire. And he was one of the greatest of all time. We said it, pound for pound, he's a top 5 guy. He is.
I still think he is, yes.
Undeniable what he did in Green Bay. He didn't win more. Maybe the leadership the last bunch of years, is a little weird ever since he started drinking that tea over in the darkness over there in the desert, man.
Stop it.
Having a grand old time, man.
What did the darkness smell like, Fish?
You know what? If he ever goes back to the darkness, I would love to go with him and try this tea, whatever the hell he's doing over there. But
Errol, I don't think the world can handle you on ayahuasca.
That would be interesting. I mean, you could record it. I mean, I'd probably be dancing on my head or something.
Great content, I'm sure.
Content. I mean, we'd be an all-time great. I mean, I'd be dancing on my head. I'd probably take my head off my body before the time is over. But honestly, I don't know what this kid's going to be. But the Jets drafted him at 171st. You have to give him a chance. Him and Tyrod Taylor's there for another year. I expect him to be there next year to help this kid, gradually grow as a quarterback in that position and see what he is. What are the chances for him not to fail his chances for him to fail are very good, but the chances of him to succeed are also good. If you have the right coaches around him, which I believe they will, they're bringing a guy that a lot of people like over there in Detroit. They're surprised that he left Detroit. He was getting offered the offensive coordinator job, and he decided to leave to take the Jets offensive coordinator job. He could have stayed there with the Lions and become a coach next year somewhere else. Instead, he wants to go to the Jets. So that tells me that he really likes Aaron Glenn, and he thinks he can help out this offense. That says a lot, and why not? And by the way, and I'm going to say this about Jared Goff. I never liked Jared Goff. And what Jared Goff said about this guy who's taking over the Jets offensive coordinator job, said that this guy is not only good in the quarterback room, he sees things that other people don't see on the football field. And that tells me that not only is he going to help Jordan Travis and Tyrod Taylor and whoever's in that locker room, he's going to help create an offense that maybe the Jets have never had over the last 20 years. So I think, if you're a Jet fan, you have to be somewhat excited because you have a guy that was a Jet taking over this team and this organization. That's all I want for all the years. And I said this with a bunch of people and Aaron, Fish, you were sitting there when I was talking to a bunch of people. I said, well, what do you like about Aaron Glenn? I said, he's a Jet. He says, okay, so how is that going to change the team and where the team is? Well, look at the guys that they brought in. Eric Mangini, a Patriot. They brought in Robert Saleh, a 49er. They brought in Rex Ryan, a Baltimore Raven. I mean, go up and down the roster. Todd Bowles. I mean, they were never Jets. None of those guys ever, if they played football, ever played with the Jets. They're bringing in a guy that the Jets drafted. He was a great player, probably one of the greatest at the time that he was on the football field, and he wants to be here. So, yeah, I think as a Jet fan, you should be excited. We'll see what happens if it works. But all in all, he wanted that job. So, as far as Aaron Rodgers is concerned, I think the Jets just need to move on from him, unfortunately. And Aaron, I love you, but your time is over. as a New York Jet. Your time is over as an NFL football player. And I'm going to tell you this right now. If the 49ers, the Vikings, or anybody decides to bring him in, they're making a big mistake.
I think the only reason the Vikings are just being brought up there is because they want it to be funny to be the same pattern as Brett
Could
Favre.
you imagine him go to Pittsburgh? Tomlin can't handle all these young
Yeah, I
wide
don't think it's gonna
receivers,
work.
and you're going to put him over there in
No,
Pittsburgh
no.
with George Pickens? Oh, my God.
I don't see that working.
That would be an interesting conversation to listen to.
That will be crazy over there in Pittsburgh.
That's what I was listening today, and a couple of people said the three most likely spots were with the Steelers because of Tomlin and his relationship. They love each other. McVay loves Aaron Rodgers with the Rams, and then obviously the 49ers connection, but I don't think they're going to go that route if they don't want.
Sean McVay, by the way, is not taking out. They have Matthew Stafford there. Why would they
But
do
then
that?
Matt Stafford's pissed because of Cooper Kupp, and he wants out of there, and he's not getting paid
Right,
enough.
but this was the same.
I'll take Matthew Stafford. And line me up for Matthew Stafford.
They had to let Cup go, though.
They said he's going to the Giants, is what I heard today, is that Stafford wants to go to the Giants.
Really?
We'll take
Could you
him.
imagine that? I know you would take him. Matthew Stafford's a good quarterback.
Yeah,
Adam
he is.
Schefter reports the 49ers have granted Deebo Samuel permission to seek his own trade. He added that Samuel told the 49ers players and Kyle Shanahan that he loved his time in San Francisco, but it is best for his career to seek a new team. Deebo Samuel agent Torrey Dandy. Oh, we know all about him. The same agent for Hassan Reddick had during his offseason drama last year. Sports Illustrated Albert Breer reports that the 49ers considered Deebo Samuel their most expendable piece with how many wide receivers they have drafted in the last 5 years. He added that the 49ers are expected to give Brock Purdy the largest deal in franchise history and could get close to $60 million per year. Deebo is in his last year of his contract with a cap hit of $15.87 million. Deebo had just 806 scrimmage yards, 4 touchdowns, the lowest total of his career since 2020 season, where he only played 2 games. Honestly, by the way, I saw Deebo Samuel over there. He was hanging out. The first day we were there, me and Fish were like, oh, there's Deebo. And by the way, he looked like a normal guy. He was wearing shorts. He's wearing a T-shirt. And he had this nice, like, really thick chain that was glimmering on his neck. I like Deebo Samuel, but with his body and the way he's beating it up, and he plays like a running back, but he's a wide receiver. They've beaten the hell out of Deebo Samuel's body over the last couple of years. I just don't know how many years Deebo has left. He's not been 100% healthy for the last couple of years. He's been fighting injury after injury after injury. And the style of game that he plays doesn't really work in the NFL for that long. The fact that Deebo Samuel got that big time contract and he's lasted as long as he has been remarkable. The guy is built like a tank. When I saw him, I was like, man, that guy, I'm not a small guy. That guy's a pretty big guy, so I was looking at it, I was like, man, he's a lot bigger than I thought he was. But I'm not surprised that Brock Purdy's going to get a $60 million contract. Brock Purdy, I know you don't like him, Owen. I know you don't want to give him $60 million, but for the time that he's been there, he's been a successful quarterback. This past year hasn't been a good year. They've been fighting injury after injury. I listened to George Kittle behind us when they were interviewing him, saying they asked him a question about Brock Purdy. And he says, Brock Purdy's my quarterback. Brock Purdy is going to get a big time contract and Brock Purdy deserves it. So I do believe that Kittle and all those offensive guys that are there are going to vouch for him. They also lost a wide receiver. They gave him an extended contract in the offseason, and then he tears, what was his ACL or his Achilles? So he went out for the season. What was it?
ACL. Here's the play right here.
So ACL. So he was out for the season. Now you're going to get him back healthy. So, I mean, are the 49ers going to be up and running, with Brock Purdy and this team healthy? I think they will be. I mean, the NFC is so wide open. I don't trust anybody in the division. Do you trust Seattle? Do you trust the Rams if Matthew Stafford wants out? No. I mean, that division is so up and crazy. And even the Buccaneers division. I mean, who are you going to trust? Atlanta? I mean, come on. I don't trust Atlanta. The Buccaneers are probably winning that division. The Carolina Panthers stink. I mean, there's just nothing. The only thing that you look at right now is the NFC East, because you have Jaden Daniels there and you have the Eagles. And then you have, to me, the best division in football right now with the Packers, with the Minnesota Vikings, with the Chicago Bears, and those type of teams. I mean, and obviously the Lions. I mean, that's probably the best division in football. I mean, who's to say that the 49ers can't win the division and be the number 1 seed going into next year? Now, I'm not going to bet on it because I'm not a big Kyle Shanahan fan, as everybody knows. And I know you know, Owen, and so do you, Fish, and Speedy, you know too. I'm not a big fan of his. I know you guys love him. I don't. And I think that the clock is ticking for Kyle Shanahan. If this team cannot get over the hump, and I'm telling you, you're gonna pay Brock Purdy $60 million, which can set your team back. You're putting yourself in a bad situation. Deebo Samuel is going to go to a team that is a Super Bowl contender. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Kansas City, if he seeks that. Kansas City needs another weapon. It's not Hopkins. It's not Xavier Worthy. I thought Xavier Worthy was going to show us a little bit more like a Tyreek Hill. Again, Tyreek Hill's another guy that's going to become available this offseason. Who's to say that, one of these other teams aren't going to make a move for Tyreek Hill? He does not want to be in Miami anymore. He's not getting along with Mike McDaniel. So, I mean, there's a lot of questions with a lot of these different teams. And if the Kansas City Chiefs think that with the team that they have in place right now could win a Super Bowl, they got another thing coming. They need to make a big slam dunk move in the offseason if they want to compete with the teams in the AFC, which are going to be better. The Chargers are going to be better. I absolutely believe it. The Broncos are going to be much, much better because they have a lot of money. And you know what the Baltimore Ravens are going to be. We all know Pittsburgh's going to be where they are. I don't know about the Browns, but the Bengals are the team to watch out for. I'm telling you, if they can get T. Higgins signed and they can get Chase signed, watch out. I mean, they can completely transform themselves from what they were this year, not even making the playoffs, to the team to beat in the AFC. So I don't know, man. There's a lot of questions over there in the AFC. Not many questions in the NFC. So it's going to be questioned. There's a lot of questions to Deebo Samuel and where he's going to go.
Yeah, the position overload issue that I've had with John Lynch in the past, I think is finally caught up to him when it comes to these 4 wide receivers that they have, and a lot of them making the big money. Now, Deebo Samuel's cap hit is not as bad this year. I think most of his contract was paid out already, so that'll make it a little more tradable and affordable to move. But between the wide receivers and the defensive line with Hargrave, too, is another contract that's probably going to be looked at to be traded.
Horrible deal, by the way. Oh,
that one I think backfired as well. And now you're going to have to make that kind of thing work with just replacement players around it. And I think that's the approach the 49ers have to start going into. Now, they drafted well this year. I think some of their young secondary players looked good, even amidst the bad defensive years that they've had with the pass rush not being as good, the run defense being not good. I think they have some promise there. The offensive line needs work, though. And I think that's where they got to start. The defensive line needs a little more work, more than they usually do. And I think that they're going to try to use Deebo Samuel's money and potentially Hargrave too, because his contract, I think,
they also drafted a wide receiver this past year,
and that's the biggest reason why I think Deebo Samuel will be traded, because Ricky Pearsall is a very similar skill set, and that's the reason why he was being dangled around in the draft. I know Jeff, when he was on the phone during that time, was mentioning the Bills. I still think the Bills are a good fit over there because they have a lot of guys that get wide receiver spacing after the catch.
Do they have the money?
Do they have the money is the question. I think the $15.87 million is something that is not too bad for it. Remember, they only paid Amari Cooper the small amount as it was. And
watch out for Tennessee.
They're an interesting one if they're going to keep it long term. It's just a question of does any team trust that Deebo Samuel is going to be a good long term?
That's where I think Kirk Cousins is going to, by the way.
Okay. On the trade market for the 49ers standpoint, they're going to see if they can get a team to bite in that kind of way to think that he can still be a good long-term option. He's going to be good for what his role is, a good yards after the catch guy. He's big, he's fast, and he's still good athletically, and he's a good playoff player. So any contending team is going to want that kind of thing. That being said, like you said, his injuries history has not been good. He's been very physically worn out, and his route tree is not that good. So you can't expect him to be like the higher end or even the mid-end number 1 receiver. I think he's more of a lower end 1 or a higher end 2 at this point, with a skill set that's still good in terms of what he does well, but there's still parts of his game that's going to be diminished, and that's why I don't know if they're going to get the trade value that they want, but they have to start somewhere to rebuild.
They're going to get a third round or fourth round draft pick.
Third round pick is probably what they're going to get. They're going to have to start somewhere, though, to get that money to be purged, because if they are going to pay Brock Purdy that kind of money, they have to draft better in other areas. Like I said, I think they started well with the secondary. I think they've started well with the defensive line in the past, but the Offensive line needs work, and they're going to need that kind of thing. If they want to pay Brock Purdy that much money, $60 million a year or around that, he's not a very mobile quarterback, so they cannot have him be hit that same way. They had a young rookie player in Pooney that played well, and Trent Williams is still there for now, but how much can you even trust that to happen?
Or Deebo Samuel wants to go seek a trade, let him. I think he's going to be a hard person to trade away, to be honest. A lot of teams are probably going to need his skill set right now. Correct. He's older. He's injury prone. I mean, maybe the Chiefs, but they have a lot of guys like him, Worthy, Hollywood Brown. They have that type of player. So who's going to really bite? I don't know what the 49ers are willing to take, if they'll take a 5th-round pick and just be like, get rid of Deebo because of all the on-the-field controversy he had this year, all the drops. Everybody kind of bailed on him. I think it's just time to part ways with him. It is what it is. Brock Purdy getting paid $60 million will be the downfall of the San Francisco 49ers. If he gets that money, they will be a low-level tier team for the next 5 to 6 years. They'll be worse than the Seahawks. They'll be worse than the Rams with McVay. Because you know what McVay does? He gets an older, wiser quarterback to run the system that he wants to run. And he doesn't go after a young kid that has to have the best talent around him and the entire NFL in order to be good. When his weapons went down, he still had more than what Josh Allen had. And Josh Allen made it work with a receiving core that wasn't as good. Running back, were probably equal level. But Brock Purdy is not a long-term. He's going to be like a Tua. So if we want to miss the playoffs and get a mid-round draft pick every year, we should pay Brock Purdy.
But if you look at this offseason, and I agree with you, there's a lot of questions, but this is an opening offseason for a lot of these veteran wide receivers. I mean, you have T. Higgins, you have Samuel, you have Cooper Kupp. I mean, you have a lot of good wide receivers, even if they're secondary wide receivers. I'm telling you, mark my words, Kansas City is going to make a slam dunk with one of these guys. They're going to take one of these guys, and because they cannot win with the team and the roster they have right now. And if Tyreek Hill does become available, and I believe he will, I believe that Miami does not want him there anymore. He's just to me, he's more of a cancer there than you can control. I could see Kansas City saying, okay, we'll take him. What do you want for him? So we'll give you a 3rd-round draft pick. We'll take Tyreek Hill's money, and we'll just we'll deal with his crap. And Andy Reid's going to love it because then they get their slam dunk guy back over there to help Travis Kelce and his team make another run. I'm not going to be surprised if Kansas City gets what they want in the offseason. This is very Kansas City-esque. It makes me sick to my stomach because I know it's going to happen.
And that's the difference, I think, with the Rams and the 49ers in the two circumstances, too. Like, the Rams have been, since McVay's gotten there, a factory of wide receivers. Like, he rebirthed Robert Woods after some bad years in Buffalo, obviously bringing in Brandon Cooks for a year, and Puka Nacua, drafting him in the 5th round and making that work. The 49ers have done it better recently with their wide receivers. But, and I'm sure you remember some of these names in the beginning of Shanahan's tenure with Jalen Hurd and Dante Pettis, future New York Giant, by the way. That did not work because they were getting guys to fit in that scheme, which at the time, honestly, I thought Deebo Samuel was going to be that too. But he was a good fit for the scheme, and he was a lot better than even early on than I expected. But this is not the same player, and the Niners are going to have to still try to make that work with the depth. But they have the depth talent-wise right now. They just need it in other areas, and they could play in so many different ways. And that's where the picks are going to come in handy. Hargrave, I think, is one, and then Greenlaw, the 3rd contract they could trade.
Well, Hargrave was injured and he just never came back, so that contract killed them. That was one of those that they gave a lot of money to. They thought they were going to have that 4-man rush on the defensive line, and they wouldn't have to blitz and let Fred Warner, the best in the business at covering, do his thing, and everyone got hurt. Owen, I think you're overselling the depth on the 49ers. You went through 4 running backs. Mason was good, not great after CMC, but missed the entire season virtually. And the other guys are just been around the league type guys or rookies, right? That's not really what we're looking for. You're not having that. And look, Jennings had a breakout year. I think Jennings is a nice possession receiver. He's a good receiver to have. I think he could be a solid number 2. Ayuk going down is when Deebo started performing poorly. There's not a surprise. Ayuk stretches the field. He runs great routes. The whole plan was you have CMC drawing attention and attacking the underneath, a la a tight end. Then you use Kittle, who can block when CMC's doing those routes, and Kittle can go out and sneak out on other routes and just go deep like a wide receiver because he's that good. And then you have Deebo as the game breaker. It was a beautiful system, and they could get away with it with a rookie 7th round, last pick in the draft quarterback who was obviously drafted too late. He should have been drafted much higher, as we've seen how he played. Is he worth $60 million? Different story completely. I've seen what happens when you pay a quarterback too much money after one good performance. I know what happens to the franchise after that. I've seen it firsthand.
Stop. You're here. To me, stop crying, okay? That's all you do. All you Giant fans. You won 4 Super Bowls in like 40 years. I'm a Jet fan. Hasn't seen a Super Bowl
that you're a Jet fan.
the day I was born. Okay, stop it. I don't want to hear you cry about any of this crap. I should be the one crying. I was happy. I was crying at the Philadelphia Eagles, but that's my second team. My team will never win a Super Bowl until they find a quarterback. Okay, I'm not going to cry. And Matthew Stafford going for all you Giant fans that are going to complain about Matthew Stafford. If you complain about that, I'm going to choke you. If Matthew Stafford goes to the Giants, you're automatically a contender. That's all I'm going to say.
Carl says Samuel of the Chiefs and Chiefs move on from Hopkins. Would you rather pay Brock Purdy or Aaron Rodgers? Bengals need a defense, and the Bengals need to beat a good team.
So I do have an issue though, Errol, and you've mentioned this a bunch of times, and I've never agreed with you, but I've never really argued with you about it. I don't really think Kyle Shanahan's anywhere near a hot seat. I think that guy is one of the 5 best coaches in football, and I think he also has this tree that's developed of successful coaches that kind of prove that he knows what he's doing. I got a list here of guys that you can attribute right to him that are head coaches. I know McDaniel had a down season, but people are very high on McDaniel. DeMeco Ryans, everyone's really high on. Bambi Sala, we know about him.
How many? I got a question for you. How many have won a Super Bowl?
Well, I'm not done. The list keeps going. The immortal, now fired Bobby Slowick is the last one. But the thing is, it's not
how many won a Super Bowl.
Guys.
How many won a Super Bowl?
Let me finish the point. We're not up to it yet because this is more than this. You know how Bill Walsh had the West Coast offense, and almost everybody started running it with that terminology XYZ, and you have the different terms for the backs. You have the different types of timing routes, the 3-step, the 5-step, and all of those things that go along with it. Well, Shanahan's system that started with his father and Gary Kubiak when they were with Denver has evolved into a language that he created that now all of these different coaches, it's not just them, it's over half the league, I believe, that uses that terminology. If you want to understand the influence of what Shanahan's done on the NFL, only Bill Walsh has done that as far as influence in terms of offensive play calling. So I need to mention that as a thing about Shanahan that I feel like we overlook sometimes. He is the inventor of a lot of things. He's an innovator offensively. Now, Owen, I just want to calm your nerves a little bit. If you think about Russell Wilson a little bit when he came into the league as a late round draft pick, he wasn't all that great. He's a play action guy. They ran the ball and they were able to get by. Brock Purdy has all the talent around him. Over time, Russell Wilson learned how to play and got better. I think if Shanahan trusts that guy, I wouldn't be so quick to not believe in Kyle Shanahan.
Shanahan is absolutely on the hot seat, and you cannot sit here and tell me he's been there. He is. He's not won a Super Bowl. How long has he been there, Speedy? What is it, 7 years?
He's been twice, and it's in recent.
It doesn't matter. He doesn't win the big game. Hey, Philadelphia won the big game. Nick Sirianni, who had on his way out, he just knocked him off, but he couldn't get over the hump. He couldn't knock that team off. Don't give me this that he's not on the hot seat. Look at now what's going on with the Bills. Go look at Buffalo right now. They have a successful coach right there. Successful. They've had a winning season practically every year since he's been there. Is he on the hot seat? 100% is. Because guess what? He's had a good team after good team after good team, and he still can't get over the hump. I'm telling you right now, Kyle Shanahan is absolutely on the hot seat. They're not going to fire him. He's just going to walk away and say, well, I decided to part ways with the organization. That's his way of saying, I'm getting fired. So I'm going to tell you this right now. If this team does not win in the next year or two, I'm going to say year. I'm telling you, you're going to hear Kyle Shanahan, not only on the hot seat, he's probably going to be gone. So you have to win. The 49ers haven't won since the 90s. The 90s. This is a historic organization. Okay, they used to win all the time. Now all of a sudden they can't win at all. Thank you, Dallas. They're another organization that used to win all the time, and they can't win it. They haven't won since the 90s either.
At least the 49ers know how to make conference championship games and Super Bowls. The Cowboys can't do either of those. They have the now 4 playoff wins since then. The what was it? Jalen Hurts has 2 Super Bowls. Like they have the same amount of since his career has come in.
All right, let's go to a new game. I know me and Fish were sitting down, and I am terrible with names, okay? I am very bad with names. And I said, you know what? You want to make a joke? You want to make fun of me? Let's play a game where I have to try to sound out a name. I'm very intrigued to see how this works. We're going to get a drop made. We're going to call this Sound It Out, okay? So I'm interested to see what this is all about. Here we go.
All right, everybody. Welcome to our newest game, Sound It Out. Phonics, Schmonics, Errol's got it.
Oh, please. Oh.
So here's the game. Errol, on the next 3 screens, there will be 3 different names of current athletes, and the sport will be the background. You have 15 seconds to pronounce the name correctly. For each one you get, if you guess it wrong, you get the buzzer. The buzzer, let's make sure the buzzer works. The buzzer should sound like that.
Please.
Or if you get it right, you will hear the buzzer in a different way.
Oh, that sounds nice. But
right.
like I'm in a fairy tale right there. I'm in Hug a Bunch. Remember Hug a Bunch?
If you have any fun sounding music, you can put it on nice and low for this game.
Oh yeah.
In the background.
All right.
And the first board will now reveal itself for Errol. Round 1 is a baseball diamond.
What the hell? Host Nixon Garcia.
Speedy.
Host Nixon Garcia.
He actually wasn't far off. He actually was not far off.
Unfortunately, that is incorrect.
He wasn't far off though. It's Host in Sin.
Host in Sin.
Oh God.
Nick Garcia.
This is embarrassing. Go ahead. Next one.
0 for 1. But all right, it's fine. We'll continue. See if we can't raise the batting average. Our next slide, we have a basketball court. Knicks first round pick this year.
I'm glad this is you and not me.
Stockholm the diet.
Dadier, he's French. Dadier.
Stockholm
Dadier, as in he doesn't get any minutes. So next guy.
Yeah, God, I'm 0 for 2.
And our final sounded out. Errol is 0 for 2.
Oh, this is definitely a hockey.
We are going to move to the ice.
Oh my God. Potra Kochetov. Kochetov.
That's actually how you spell Peter in Russian.
Oh,
so God. That's actually Peter Kochetkov.
It's actually
the goalie
Piotr.
for the yeah, but it's actually Peter, right? So it's Piotr.
Piotr. Who names their son
like
Piotr?
It's saying Peter, and it's Kochetkov.
Yeah,
right? And he is the goalie for the Hurricanes.
I know who he is. I can't pronounce his name. And by the way,
and that has been sounded out.
Oh, please. That's embarrassing, by the way. But one of these days I'm going to get one of those things right. So I got to work on it. But, you guys can pick in many different areas where I'm just never. There's just one game that I'm probably going to lose a lot of. So it's always been my problem trying to sound out these weird foreign names. And, we were sitting there and we were making fun of it because we were talking about some hockey players. And I was like, and Fish was like, who? And I was like, yeah, him. And he's like, that's not how you pronounce his name. And so but I said, yeah, but that's the way I pronounce the name. So he says, you know what? We got to make this a game. So how embarrassing is that? So that's one thing, Jabba, I'm never going to win is trying to sound out those weird names. So
I got one, and that was the baseball one, just because I had no chance on the other two, though. No shot.
I love the baseball one because it's just his first name that's hard. It's just Garcia is his last name. So it was like, oh man, I could just get past his first name. I got it.
Well, I guess I'm going to be losing a lot of those. Anyway,
that was his given name at birth too, by the way.
Oh, please. I could only imagine what other names he probably has. Some of those foreign guys have like 7 or 8 names. Like they have like 6 middle names. Did you know that Mariano Rivera has like 5 names? Like it's not just Mariano Rivera. He's got like 5 middle names. It's like weird.
So if you ever see Vita Vea's Hawaiian name, it's like that too. He has like 9 names.
It's weird. How do you have all these names?
Dikembe Mutombo had a bunch too, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it's like weird. How do you have all these names? I mean, like seriously. I mean, maybe his father called him a name, his mother called him a name, his sister called him a name. That's on a birth certificate. Oh man. All right, let's go to a quick sports minute. When we come back, Tic-Tac-No.
This is the Jabba and the Mouth Sports Minute.
All right. Back again. And for some NBA stuff, Tyler Hero is going to be inactive tonight versus the Celtics with a sickness. And Hero was reportedly out with a stomach bug, and this illness could potentially have him out for their next game on Wednesday as well. And other news for LA, the Lakers center Dalton Knecht is also available tonight after the Hornets trade over the weekend apparently fell through. Knecht will stay with the Lakers. However, it is uncertain if he plays tonight versus the Jazz at 10:30 p.m. And to finish off with some MLB, the Cubs are actually showing interest in bringing in infielder Justin Turner. Now, for the NBA, as we switch it back, for Scoops' scores, the Warriors have a 98-92 lead over the Bucks with 9 minutes in the fourth quarter, while the Thunder have a dominant 120-90 lead over the Pelicans, 4 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter over there. Closing out the third quarter, the Mavericks have a 92-86 lead over the Kings, while at halftime, the Nuggets have a 70-55 lead over the Trailblazers. And at 10:30, the Jazz and Lakers are expected to tip off any minute now. And with that, I am Tommy Scoops, throwing it back to the boys for the continuation of Jabba and the Mouth.
Any questions?
What is this? This is the Jabba and the Mouth Show.
Where do you pick this song selection? Now I feel like I'm deep in the 80s. I feel like I'm like in a movie. Jesus Christ, Jabba. I mean, Speedy. I mean, whatever. I feel like I'm in a Toy Story movie. 631-672-3108 is the number to call.'re listening to Jabba and the Mouth. I'm your host, Errol Marks, my co-host, Jabba Chamberlain and Speedy Petey. Go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including Jabba in the Mouth, every single Mondays and Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. All you have to do to tune in and check out our local listings for all our shows is go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I know Owen's been waiting for this because he needs to win. He's been fighting to win, and he just can't get over the hump. But maybe tonight he could trick us. As we call this, Tic-Tac-No.
Morris, right in the butt.
What?
We get the prizes cheap because they're stolen.
No. Now here's your host, the Tick himself, Owen the Tick Regner.
All right. How wonderful. The Tick is back, ladies and gentlemen, and he doesn't smell. He's ready to go. He's hanging out over there in the Omaha, Nebraska area. How are you?
Lincoln. We're in Lincoln.
I don't know. Lincoln, I listen.
Hey.
The only thing
Can't
I
claim
like,
Omaha.
Jabba and Owen, you're the only thing I like about Lincoln.
Hey, our football team's not terrible.
All right. Maybe
we
I'll
went to the bowl game.
Maybe
all right, guys. All right. I took a week off last week to get some good questions. So,
Okay.
first question. Who has the most goals scored ever in a World Cup?
In one single World Cup.
Yep.
Oh, that's a good question.
I'm gonna
Pele.
say
Nope.
I don't think it's Pele. No.
I'll go with a recent one. Let's go with a recent one with Mbappe.
No.
I'm gonna say
Yeah, there's 6 of them.
Diego Maradona.
That's a good guess.
Nope.
No, damn.
Ronaldo, not Cristiano, the older one from Brazil.
Ronaldinho.
Either way, not right.
No, not Ronaldinho either. Ronaldo. There's a lot
Either
of
way,
them.
either way, you're wrong. Ronaldinho, Ronaldo.
Is it Pacome Dadier?
It's not. I know how to say that now.
Shut up, fish, you idiot. Messi.
No, it's Miroslav Klose with
God.
16 goals in a World Cup.
I thought he pitched for the Indians.
I don't know.
That would have been a hard one to pronounce.
I don't even know if I pronounced it right, but
He's
All
got.
right, Owen, where are we going?
we'll go middle. Just keep it right there.
There we go.
There's the tick.
All right. What team scored the most points in a Super Bowl? Who was it and how many points?
The 49ers, 59 points against the Broncos.
It wasn't 59, but it wasn't 49ers.
55. 55.
It was
Oh,
55 points.
Yeah, that's what it was. Okay.
I was gonna say there's no chance Speedy's getting this wrong.
Well, I figured after the Eagles probably could have got to that number yesterday, but they let off the reins. I'd throw that one in there.
All right. The 49ers.
All right, where are we going, Speedy?
Let's cover up the Huskers logo.
There
at
we
that.
go.
Look at that ugly mug right there.
All right.
That's when he looked like Jesus Christ.
What Super Bowl held the largest attendance?
Wow. Oh, I know this.
It would have to be the biggest stadium, so
I'm gonna say SoFi.
The most fans?
SoFi Stadium.
Which Super Bowl was it, though?
56.
Not just the stadium.
56, if that's the case.
Oh, you're saying not okay? So 56, yeah. 3 Super Bowls ago.
Nope.
No, damn.
you forget pandemic people.
I feel like this is older.
This was the year after. I think the pandemic affected was that.
People still were going out for a couple of years.
I didn't think. Yeah, never mind. The attendance was still
You know, I bet you it has something to do with the 49ers because Owen loves to use the 49ers.
You know what? It's not the 49ers, but I just looked it up and it surprised me.
Huh.
So
How about 45? Because Steelers and Packers travel well. It's in Dallas, like state-of-the-art stadium.
nope.
Think it's got to be older. Like think of old big stadiums.
I don't know. So I'm not going to sit here and guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll say Super Bowl. I'm just gonna guess a number because I don't remember. I can't do this right now. 51.
Nope.
Damn.
I got nothing.
1 out of 59 chance.
All right. So it was Super Bowl 14, played in 1980.
You're right,
There's a
Jabba.
Pittsburgh Steelers versus LA Rams. They played in the Coliseum in Pasadena.
Oh,
Look at that.
So,
that makes because isn't
Well,
that
I
like
mean-
something like over 100,000, right?
yeah,
Yeah, that makes
103,985 fans.
That's what I was
Yeah,
like.
where
I
we
feel like it had to
going?
be something old.
Let's go.
I
Let's
wasn't
go
alive.
middle top. Middle top.
There we go.
Speedy wasn't alive. Sweet.
Speedy wasn't even thought of for like 16 years.
I wasn't alive either. So
There was
it's
a
fine.
little crumb in his mom's ass.
So from that logic, what does that make Scoops?
An amoeba.
Scoops was a little wet dream.
All right. Who has the fastest pitch thrown in an MLB game?
Ooh,
Wow. Let me get this.
there's two
Is it
guys.
Mason Miller?
It's not.
They've gone back and forth. It was
I'm
Chapman
gonna go,
had it once.
I'm gonna go Giordano Ventura.
Not correct.
I think he had one
Before he blew his arm out. I thought Miller did it this year.
I think he probably had the record for this year, but I don't know.
I'm just gonna go with the same guy that I always go with, Aroldis Chapman.
Nope.
I knew it wasn't Chapman.
I'm just gonna say that's.
I remember they said someone broke it.
I know he
and
threw it
guess-
at like 104 or 105. I remember that.
Was it? Was it the rookie, the new kid from Tennessee, Ben Joyce?
That's correct.
Oh, Java.
Broke it this year at 106 miles an hour.
All right. So Java, this is where the strategy of Tic-Tac-No comes in hand. Do you want to go for the block or set up the kill?
I mean, I got faith in us. Let's go for the kill. Fuck it.
All right, top or bottom?
I like being on top.
There we go.
Oh, how wonderful!
How's that feel, Speedy?
All right, guys. So next
your beard is
question
very-
wins it
Your beard's
All right.
very comfortable, Jabba.
Perfect.
for all the marbles.
All right. What three players are tied for the most three-pointers made without a miss?
Oh,
Wow.
And it was 9 in a row, or 9 threes made without a miss.
I know
There's 3 of them.
I know Kobe's one of them. I know Steph is another.
Yeah. Is
I feel it'd be like a Mark Price, Steve
River,
Kerr, or something
Kobe,
like that.
Steph, and there's somebody else.
Kyle Korver? No.
No. I'm trying to think. I know this.
Well, Errol, since 2 of the 3 of yours are wrong, I think you're DQ'd. Neither of those guys are tied for that record.
All right, I'm DQ'd. Screw you, Owen.
Nine threes in a row in one
Michael
game.
Jordan. Michael Jordan.
Or-
playoff.
No. The
Wait,
names
so
on
is
this
it-
list will surprise you.
Okay.
Is it in one game or over the course of time?
It's just without in one game without a miss.
9 threes. Jesus. All right, so I'm just
Recent
going
or
to say
older?
random people. That's really, really hard.
I would say they're newer players. I wouldn't say they're super old players. Probably 1985 and up.
All right. So let's say who would have been able to shoot that much? Let's say Mitch
Chris
Richmond.
Mullin? I would say Chris Mullin.
Chris Mullin's a good guess.
Mm-hmm.
I would have said Mitch Richmond though.
It's good. That's good.
Here, I'll give you a hint on one of them. He currently plays, and he plays for your guys' favorite team. Not Jabba's.
Mitch Robinson?
Mitch Robinson. I don't know if he's been 9
Jalen
threes in his
Brunson?
career.
Maybe
Jalen Brunson.
control his
Jalen
hand.
Brunson.
Jalen Brunson's
hit
one.
9 threes in one game and didn't miss. I believe that.
The other
believe
two, I was very surprised. And since you guys are baffled,
Can I make some wild guesses?
yeah, go for it because I
I'll go
guarantee
Bridges.
you
I'll
don't
go
get
with
one of them.
Bridges of the Knicks for the Knicks, I guess.
No, it's Jalen Brunson.
It was
But
Brunson.
yeah,
Yeah. How about Allen Houston?
no. And
He shot a
I'm
lot.
telling you, it doesn't even make sense when you hear one of their names. I was very,
Doesn't make any sense.
Dirk?
Al Harrington.
no, not Dirk. All right. So you guys remember Ben Gordon from the Bulls?
Of course.
Sure. Yeah.
Twice. And then
Wow.
UConn comes from UConn. Thank
the,
God.
the
He
one that
comes from
surprised me,
Mount Vernon over here by me.
the one that really surprised me, Latrell Sprewell.
Oh wow.
I do remember that.
Damn.
I do remember Latrell Sprewell.
I was
That's
like,
true.
there's no way that dude hit
That's
9 in a
true.
row.
Another Nick.
Wow.
Another Nick. And I remember
Wow.
I do remember that. That's true.
That's great.
My next-
All right.
I'll take the win. Thank you.
Steve Novak. I don't think they let Novak shoot the ball 9 times in 2 games.
All right, Owen.
Thanks for coming out to play today, fellas. It was a very easy
He
victory.
wins. He finally
First
wins.
win.
You little punk. Soccer questions.
Hey, I got to get creative. I said I had a week off.
You
Yeah.
got a week off.
Freaking Emmanuel Classe with like 30 goals or something.
16.
Yeah, whatever.
Oh, let's go into it. Before Saturday's game, the Mavericks fans protested outside of the American Airlines Arena about Luka Doncic and the trade. A video from ESPN's Tim McMahon showed fans booing a cardboard cutout of GM Nico Harrison with a red clown nose attached to it. Several fans purchased billboards taking shots at Nico Harrison, one of which says he was supposed to be a statue. The billboard also referred Dirk Nowitzki's loyalty never fades. Quote, he made at his Hall of Fame ceremony and said that Luka was never disloyal to the team. This protest came before Anthony Davis was set to make his Mavericks debut against the Rockets. Davis got hurt in that game, suffering a non-contact groin injury, and is expected to miss at least 2 more weeks. Well, ladies and gentlemen, get ready for more of this because Anthony Davis is never going to be healthy over there in Dallas Maverickville. So, what does this tell me? Well, it tells me that Luka Doncic will make his appearance tonight at 10:30. He will score about 40-something points, give you about 9 rebounds and 7 assists, and everybody's going to be calling this the worst trade in NBA history. Should the fans be upset? We would kill the owner and kill management and all the executives running this organization. This was a horrible trade. I told everybody from the beginning, Luka Doncic is going to change everything for the LA Lakers. I think this team automatically becomes a championship competitive team. I don't think you could argue this. I don't care if that trade never happened over there with the Charlotte Hornets. It doesn't matter. This team is still going to compete in the Western Conference. The question here really lies why Dirk Nowitzki or any of these guys have not gone on social media and taken shots at management and ownership over there with the Dallas Mavericks. This guy is a clear favorite every single year to be an MVP candidate. This guy is one of the best offensive options we've seen in history. I'm telling you, this guy is 25, 26 years old. He's a baby. And this guy really hasn't even hit his prime. And this idiot organization trades him away to the Lakers. What are you, idiots? You're dumb, retarded, and I don't know where the hell you are. And by the way, where is Mark Cuban? If Mark Cuban was running this organization like everybody says he was, he would have never made this trade. This is a trade that's going to set this team back for the next 20 years. To have a player this good in the prime of, not even in the prime of his career yet, who's taking your team to a Western Conference Finals and a Finals, and last year was 3 wins away from winning a championship, is an absolute stupid move. This is stupidity at its fullest. And Nico Harrison's going to be looking for a job. He's going to be working at a shelter at the end of this year because this organization is going to be looking for a new GM because Luka Doncic is going to be laughing to the bank when he takes his team to the Western Conference Finals.
Nico Harrison's going to be working in a shelter trying to train dogs on their conditioning. In his philosophy,
sounds like a good idea.
In his philosophy, which Luka Doncic is not the conditioning guy, that he's been healthy his whole career until this year. And Anthony Davis has been fragile his whole career, and now you're seeing the price of it. He goes down on a non-contact injury, a groin injury in the third quarter. Fish, you even described it to me further. There was a couple other bones in there as well. He's the guy that's had an injury risk for a while. He's 30 years old. He's 7 foot, and that's the risk that's going to come with that on a team that, like we were talking about last week, they have a little bit of depth, but it's not great. Luka Doncic, his playoff prowess really carried them to the finals last year as a 5 seed. You're losing that. You're losing probably the best active playoff player in the NBA scoring wise right now.
In history right now. In history.
That good.
That good.
For a team that when he came there, they made the playoffs in the bubble as a 6th seed, I believe. They took the Clippers, a better team than they were at the time, to 7 games. They beat the Suns, the 67-win Suns, in the playoffs in 7 games to go to the Western Conference Finals. And last year they go to the finals as a 5 seed. That's the guy you're trading away for a fragile Anthony Davis. The fans have every right to do all this stuff. Okay, you don't want to do anything derogatory. Fine, there's nothing derogatory about anything this either. You're calling him a clown. You're doing all this billboards. I mean, yeah, that's called freedom of speech. That's called freedom of expression that way. For what is already turning out to be one of the worst trades ever. If Anthony Davis, he says he's only going to miss 2 weeks, but we know how those go with NBA.
But
players,
Speedy, how does this make sense? You sit here
I
today.
didn't say it made sense.
How does this make sense that they were talking about bringing Kevin Durant to go and play with Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving?
Another great conditioning guy.
How does that make sense? That never, by the way, ever happens. And even if it did happen, do you think fans are going to be happy that Kyrie and Kevin Durant are banding together again over there in Dallas? It never worked over there with James Harden. What makes anybody think it's going to work over there in Dallas? It's stupid. Nico, you're an idiot. Nico Harrison, Nico Blowski, whatever the hell he calls himself. I'm telling you, he's going to be working at a shelter or he's going to be doing something. He should be selling popcorn by the end of the year. He should not be running his organization. This was a dumb, stupid move, and this organization is going to regret it for many, many years. And Mark, where are you? You're all over this Shark Tank, and you're hanging out. You were at the Super Bowl the other day. Why are you there when you should be here trying to figure out why this organization can't control ownership, control executives from making stupid, dumb, ridiculous moves that's going to set your team, I mean, not your team, because your
casino's team.
Your casino's team for the next 20 years.
He's making Nico Harrison is making Sean Marks look like a genius.
Well, I mean, how did they get together in like a boardroom and they're like, that sounds like a great idea? Like, did nobody like slap him in the face and be like, "Are you serious? Like, you're really thinking we're going to do this?" I don't
get of conditioning.
It gets worse. Today, the guy who owns the team, I forget his name. Cuban sold at the beginning of 2024.
Yeah, but he still owns like 20-some% though, right?
But he doesn't. But without the 51%, you don't have the say over everything. So he had no say in this whatsoever, is my understanding. And the ownership group, the guy comes out and says he likes Anthony Davis. He likes guys that work hard, like Kobe, like someone else. And then he mentioned like Shaquille O'Neal and meant it with a straight face, as if we didn't know Shaq played his way into shape through in the first half of the season every year. This is a guy who doesn't know what he's doing. This is a billionaire that just bought this team and is playing around with it like it's like your kids playing with Legos, dude. This is not what you want if you're a Mavs fan. They are going to miss the days of Mark Cuban's craziness now, because Cuban would have never done anything like this. This is just suicide for a franchise. You never trade a guy not in his prime yet for a guy at the end of his prime who probably wasn't as good as him in the first place. Even though Anthony Davis was an amazing player and still it can be great if he's healthy. But as you saw, he had a great game. Great. 26, 30. It was like, I don't remember the exact stat line speed. It's like 20. It was double before he got hurt with with good defense. And then he's old. He's getting there. He's over 30. He moved the wrong way, pulled a muscle in his groin. He wasn't even running. He was literally turned to the right. It was an adductor injury. Said multiple weeks, could be a month. They got the All-Star break, so obviously he'll rest up. But it's a joke. They should be protesting, and it's just going to get worse. I expect 50 tonight from Luka. He is going to, and then they play. I think they play the Mavs. They go to Dallas in a couple of weeks.
They do.
That's going to be interesting.
3 weeks from now. And fans are going to probably be bowing down and hoping. But go ahead. I'm sorry, Owen.
They're setting this up for a playoff matchup. Luka versus Anthony Davis. It's going to sell. It's going to sell, and it's going to be just a murder scene. Anthony Davis is not that great of a player. As we know, he just doesn't stay healthy. When he's on the court, he's amazing, but he sometimes lacks effort. Sometimes he's late on defensive rotations. And if he's engaged, then he's great. But there's half the times I watch the Lakers where he's just like, I don't feel really like trying tonight. And you didn't hear a peep from him. Would have 5 points, 7 points. And you're like, where's Anthony Davis? And then other times he'd have 50. It just depends on his want level. And eventually he's going to be like, I want to be out of Dallas. probably go back to the Lakers, team up with Luka and LeBron, and all will be right in the world.
Oh, God, please. What do you want me to throw up? This is an organization that's absolute debacle. Jerk, where are you, man? Come out of retirement. I think Dallas needs you. Could you? I'm just shocked. I'm still shocked. I can't believe that happened. I don't know where this organization really has any sense of mind or where they're going. If you're going to trade your franchise player, one of the top 3 players in the league, for practically nothing, a bag of bones, that tells me that the organization is doomed for the future. And then they tried to go after Kevin Durant. What are you, nuts?
The expert of conditioning.
I mean, seriously, what are you, nuts? It never works. It never worked with him and over there with the Nets. How is it going to work now? It's so stupid. I honestly, I'm completely lost. I have no idea what ownership is doing.
We need the all conditioning team and then the Nico Harrison all conditioning team.
And then the Kevin Durant's like, I don't want to go to the Warriors. Oh, I hate winning championships and getting the ball and actually looking like a decent basketball player. I don't want to go back there. I'd rather be play for the crappy Suns. Just doesn't make sense.
ESPN
No, it makes sense. Draymond's there.
Another Lakers story. ESPN reports the Lakers are attempting to trade for Hornets power forward Mark Williams, and it was rejected. And because he failed a physical. He added that the Hornets failed to give them the right information about Williams' injuries and diagnosis, and weren't fully satisfied with the condition of the trade. The Hornets had a tweet after the trade that didn't happen and called the Lakers the other team that was aggressively pursuing Williams in the trade. The trade would have sent Williams to the Lakers in exchange for Dalton Connect, Cam Reddish, and a 2031 first-round pick. ESPN's Tom Bontemps reports that the Lakers and the Knicks were working on a trade involving Mitchell Robinson and Austin Reeves. The Lakers are now expected to look for a big man that is in the middle of a buyout. One of those guys is McGee. The other one is Biyombo. The other one is Bamba or whatever.
Mo Bamba.
Mo Bamba. I don't know why they want Mo Bamba. He stinks. All these different names that nobody wants. So, I mean, McGee seems a little bit more interesting. McGee has won before. He's been with teams that have been successful. He was over there with Golden State. He's been all over the place. That makes sense. But the other guys, these guys are not any good. I mean, the whole Mitchell Robinson thing, that was never going to happen. I can never see the Knicks trading with the Lakers and sending Mitchell Robinson. That's pretty much saying, here's one of the best defensive big men in the NBA that is healthy. Here you go. Here's your championship. Go get it. I can never see the Knicks doing that. I would have never saw that.
The Knicks
happen.
can't trade size anyway. They're not.
The Knicks are not going to do that. I mean, I would have thought that Mitchell Robinson was on a trade, on a trade plate, but it had to make sense for the New York Knicks. I do believe Mitchell Robinson, win or lose this year, will be traded in the offseason. I think the Knicks obviously have control of him. They have a very fair contract with him when he was signed. I mean, it was a very fair contract. And I do believe Mitchell Robinson in the offseason will be moving no matter what happens. If the Knicks win a championship, he's still going to be moving. I don't think he fits over there. They want an athletic team that can go up and down the court. And Mitchell Robinson, unfortunately, can't stay healthy. And anytime he goes up and down the court, he gets hurt. So as far as the Lakers are concerned, I don't think it matters if they have a big man or not. It becomes a half-court game in the NBA. I've been saying this over and over and over again. And when you have a guy like Luka Doncic that can shoot threes and create mismatches in the open court, and you have LeBron James that can still jump and run and do all the things that he can do, and you got both guys that are averaging right now 28, both of them are averaging about 9 rebounds and 7 assists. I mean, how are you going to beat this team? Both guys can score 50 points in a game. We've seen this before. Why couldn't they do it on the same team? Honestly, and now they have Dalton Connect back and Cam Reddish and their pick. I mean, they could spread the floor as well as they can. Both guys can shoot. Honestly, you really look at some of the teams that have won before. I mean, Golden State was a small team when they won their first championship. Yeah. Who was their big man?
Kevon Looney.
Yeah, I mean, no, that was the second one.
Oh, Spates. You're right. Spates was the first one.
No, it was what's his name again?
Oh,
Draymond
Bogut?
Green.
Oh,
Draymond Green was their center when they won their first championship. Draymond Green is 6'8", and they won their first championship with that. And by the way, Steph Curry wasn't the MVP. I mean, it was Andre Iguodala. So I mean, why couldn't they win with the team that they have right now? And by the way, the two players that they have right now, and LeBron James and Luka Doncic, are better than any of the two players they ever had over there in Golden State. And that includes Steph Curry and Kevin Durant at the top of their game. These two guys are just as good or even better than those combinations. I mean, this is the best player LeBron has ever played with.
Yep.
You can't even argue it. And that's with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh and all the other guys, Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love at the primes of their careers. This guy is by far the best player LeBron has ever played with.
Yeah, and that helps when you have these extra shooters to help you out, even though if they're not developing the way that they should. I would say give Connect some time. Obviously, we know Cam Reddish has been up and down in the NBA so far in his career, but the Lakers for years, it was always like, can you get LeBron some shooters so he could space the floor better? And you're going to think the same kind of thing now with Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic obviously can shoot himself. He's a phenomenal shooter. But when he's passing the ball, can they get other guys to shoot the ball? And that's why I think the Lakers are better off going into this buyout market rather than trying to trade these assets to get somebody like Williams. He's a good player. Williams is a good player, 7-foot guy.
Can't stay healthy.
Can't say healthy. He's a pretty well-rounded guy, but not like overly special at anything. He was a project when he was drafted. He came out of your Duke Blue Devils, and
don't remind me.
Yeah, he had to take a little time to develop, but again, he developed a lot faster, and that's why he's available this right away. He's got to probably get one of those rookie scale contracts at the end of this year when he becomes a free agent. So I think they're better off with trying to work the buyout market, like you said, maybe going after JaVale McGee, who's won with the Lakers. LeBron knows him. It makes kind of sense. I guess Mo Bamba's the same kind of reference because he was there briefly too. I think the year after.
Bamba stinks.
I think, yeah, you're right. I think McGee is the better option at this point for what LeBron wants and for what the traditional center, because McGee's a big guy still. Bamba's more of that leaner big man that I don't think makes a lot of sense. And Daniel Tice, he's a good guy with the Celtics too, with the Houston Rockets. Maybe that's interesting as well, but I agree with you. McGee is the guy they should look at for that. And maybe go in quantity, not necessarily one guy.
You want him to get multiple?
If size becomes an issue for them down the road,
it becomes a half-court game. Size. How many times do we have to go over this over and over and over again? Watch the game. I watched last year the Dallas Mavericks. Do you remember that? They were not a big team. They're not a big team. They won because they had two players that got very, very hot in the playoffs. Kyrie Irving got very, very hot in the Western Conference Finals, and obviously, this guy, Luka Doncic, was hot all playoff long. When you have two guys that hot, it doesn't matter how big your guys are on the court. Gafford was there, and obviously P.J. Washington. P.J. Washington isn't that tall. He's like, what, 6'9"?
I think.
I mean, he's not that big.
Another Hornets.
Luka Doncic is 6'10", okay? So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, you need a big man to win. That's not true. I'm telling you right now.
No. It's not necessarily needing a big man to win because nobody's expecting the Lakers.
OKC needed a big man because they're very small.
Sure. And I think nobody's wanting them to be the scoring prowess by any means. It's just a matter of the rebounding and defense because obviously LeBron is getting worn down during his career. Obviously, he could turn it up in the playoffs if he needs to, but he's 40 years old. And Luka Doncic, we've seen his defensive flaws.
Dude, don't tell me about LeBron James's age. I mean, the guy's averaging what? You want me to look at LeBron James's numbers, which are friggin' ridiculous? This guy never gets old, and I don't want to hear about Bronny James anymore for all you fans out there.
I don't want to hear hero playoffs.
Stop sticking up for Bronny James. He stinks. He's horrible.
While you're looking this up, Shams Sharani came out 20 minutes ago saying that
I was going to bring that up, but can't get no words in with these two over here.
What happened?
No, Shams came out. I was just scrolling through and I found it. I guess they're figuring out options because they're disputing the physical and see what they can do. And I guess the Hornets are weighing avenues for the challenges, is what Sean said.
Yeah, they're going to challenge this.
Challenge it. I don't know what that means, but
I heard they can't overturn it now at this point. Though there was
it's like a doctor duel or something. Like, no, I read the X-ray this way, or something. Like, I don't. How do you challenge a physical?
I think there was a limit.
The
window they had.
It's the doctor he sends them to, right? So they've obviously used him before.
I'm not saying
unless they got cold feet. I don't know.
I believe everything the Lakers are accusing them of, but I just don't think they can change it now.
Are the Hornets accusing the Lakers of getting cold feet on the trade and making some bullshit up about Mark Williams? Because if that's true, then Mark Williams' value as a player gets diminished in his next contract signing because he now has a failed physical. And that's a messed up thing to do to a player. And he would have a
You're messing with
legitimate
his money
lawsuit
at
on
that
his
point.
hand.
Yeah.
And people have sued for things like this in the past. Jabba, have you ever played with someone or that was like traded and the trade was rescinded or something? And I can't imagine how awkward that must be for Connect and for Williams. And I guess, Cam Reddish has been on every team in the league, I guess, at this point.
No, but I've been in like some weird situations where, obviously this was a failed physical. I've been in ones where, trying to think, it was Austin Jackson when I was with the Tigers. It was a 3-team deal with them, the Mariners, and the Rays, I believe. And we're in like the 4th inning, and I'll never forget, it was like a 2-0 count, and they called time. Dave Dombrowski, who's now with the Phillies, he was our president at the time, comes in, and he was like, hey, you have to get him off the field before the deadline is over, or it was null and void. So we had to run one guy in, and he got there with literally they had a stopwatch. I was like, and he was like, he didn't know what was going on. They're like, hey, I think Tyler Collins went out to play center field, and he was like, I didn't know what to say. I was like, hey, they need you because you just got traded. He goes, I didn't know what to say. And all of a sudden he's running in, and he just had to be off the field. And it was literally, they were looking at a stopwatch. He made it with a minute or something. But I've never been on one where it's they came or hey, texted back and forth, and they're like, oh, sorry, I'm not coming. I mean, that would be so awkward because it not like it was your choice, right?
Because Dalton Connect has been playing, up and down. He's a rookie, and the fans love him. He's a high flyer. He's got some alley oops. He's got a great 3-point shot. You would think this is a guy you'd want to have on your team. You spend a 1st-round draft pick on him. I don't really understand why you would want to move him and then get cold feet and they haven't said what's wrong with the physical. I've looked everywhere for it, and it's just multiple things wrong with it. Well, what do you mean multiple things wrong? That's really intentionally vague, and it's a little suspicious in my opinion. And maybe they're getting cold feet. Maybe they didn't really want to get rid of Connect. Maybe that's what Pelinka is going to do now. Oh, Dalton, we didn't really want to get rid of you. We really love you. Blah, 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 blah. I don't know. He's going to have to do something.
By the way, LeBron James is averaging almost 25 points a game, almost 8 rebounds a game, and 9 assists a game. So, Jesus. I mean, he's still ridiculous. It's ridiculous, not fair. Man. It's really not fair the way they're putting these two guys together going into the second half of the season. Watch out. I'm telling you, watch out.
40 years old, man. 40 years old.
I'm telling you, if LeBron has any chance of winning another title, here it is. Here you go. Here's Luka Doncic for free, practically. After the 76ers lost to the Bucks on Sunday, Joel Embiid told ESPN's Lisa Salters that he will likely need another knee surgery to his left knee. Embiid added he wishes he could play in every game, but can't when his knee swells up as much as it has. He added that nobody expected the pain to be as bad as it has been, and references playing in the Olympics as the cause of the concern to it. Oh my God, now he's blaming the Olympics. Embiid missed the first 9 games due to the left knee injury management, and the 76ers are not having him play back-to-back games at all this season. Embiid has played just 16 games this season after playing just 39 games last season. Embiid and Paul George have combined to only play 33 games this season. The 76ers are 20-32 this season, 11th in the Eastern Conference. Well, Paul, I guess you picked the wrong team, my friend. It's going to smack you around now. Paul George is a losing player. He just is. And everywhere he goes, he finds a way to make more mistake after more mistake after more mistakes.
We're Eskimo brothers.
Yeah. I honestly don't know what they're going to do. The 76ers are falling apart like we've seen. Joel Embiid was that they had Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid and Noel's, remember that?
Nerlens Noel.
Nerlens Noel.
Nick the legend.
They had all these first-round early talents. They have Jahlil Okafor, remember him? They drafted. They had all these guys that they brought in, and all of them have not worked. It's just absolutely sad right now watching this organization just completely bomb after bomb after bomb after bomb. I don't know. I don't know. And Joel Embiid coming out and blaming the Olympics. Come on, dude. Stop. Stop making excuses, dude. You've been bitching and moaning since you come into the league. You were bitching and moaning 2 years ago because you thought you should be the MVP. You got your MVP, and your team absolutely got smacked around in the playoffs. You're the only big man in NBA history that's won an MVP, that's never taken your team to a Eastern or Western Conference Finals. You're a loser, dude. You're a loser. Nobody's going to want you. You're a washed-up player that has bad knees. And in the last, how many games? The last 2 years, he's played what? Under 50 games? It's embarrassing. It's an embarrassment. And in this organization that sits here and stands tall. And by the way, you could say you hate Philadelphia all you want, guys. The 76ers fans are so bad. You know, they stand behind their teams. The Philadelphia fans stand behind their teams, from the 76ers to Philadelphia Phillies and the Philadelphia, Eagles. They all stand behind their teams. They're good fans. And to sit here and watch what happened against the Knicks, in the playoffs last year, and all the fans show up there and pile out on the floor for all the tickets because the fans just couldn't stand Joel Embiid and where this team was going. It just says a lot about this organization and where this organization is going. It's embarrassing. They're an embarrassing organization.
Yeah, Joel Embiid is another instance of him like starting to cry wolf over issues that he is obviously controlling. Obviously, he doesn't control the actual knee injuries himself, but he's the one that said, "Oh, I'm not going to play back-to-back games." He's the one that said, "Oh, I don't need to worry about
Speedy, he can't."
Yeah, I know. And he's the one now saying, "Oh, now I'm going to go blame the Olympics. You barely played in the Olympics. You didn't even play well in the Olympics, and now you're going to go blame them instead when you played barely any minutes and you played maybe 3 games in total in the Olympics." No, you're now taking shots at everybody else. You're self-reporting, saying, "Oh, I'm going to go get knee surgery." So you're going to take shots at your own team that way. You're going to recreate, this load management thing, not playing back-to-back games to work. Yeah, how's it work for you? You have 16 games played, and now you're already claiming that you're going to need knee surgery again. Nobody's going to trust you, load management, or trying to play hard anyway. So now you're going to throw your team
How much
under
is
the
he
bus.
making right now?
54 million or something?
54 million. And this guy's only played how many games so far?
16 games.
No, he's played 16 games out of how many games? 30 something?
43 or something.
43 games, and this organization's paying him $54 million.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
We first of all just need to stop talking about it because it's the same thing over and over. Like it's unbelievable that now it's like, okay, let me try and blame something else. We know you're not playing back-to-back games. We know exactly what you're doing, so just shut up. You're a bum. Like, just
now he's trying to accelerate a surgery. Like you're saying, just shut me down now. He's not even the team saying it.
Oh, Manny just said he has a $69 million player option in 2028.
He shouldn't be there in 2028.
You know that's not getting exercised.
If he gets that, I mean, he should go to prison. People go to prison for less than that.
I don't know. Ben Simmons is making a lot of money.
Yeah,
True. That's true.
the worst contract in the NBA.
Another player that came from that stupid organization that got a lot of money. And by the way, they're the ones that gave him that money. I mean, that organization. I feel bad for the fans. I really feel bad for the 76 fans.
How can you feel bad for them? They just won a Super Bowl. It's the same people.
Listen, I look at games completely different. The basketball team's different from the football team. The football team's different from the hockey team.
Fields and courts are all in the same complex. They're all right next to each other.
It doesn't matter. It's like being a New York fan. I'm a Jet fan. I'm a Knicks fan. I'm a Yankee fan, and I'm an Islander fan. All my teams suck, but the Yankees. If the Yankees won, I still feel bad for the Knicks fans. If I wasn't a Knicks fan or it was you, I'd be feeling bad for you. So. Dude, but I've been in this situation before because I've been a Knicks fan my whole life and a Jet fan and an Islander fan. So I've been in this situation for a very long time watching bad basketball. I mean, when was the last time the Knicks were good? With Carmelo Anthony 1 year and they lost against Indiana.
Carmelo.
In the second round.
Insanity for about 3 weeks.
Right.
And before that, I guess you have to go back to the 2000 team that made the run in the shortened season.
Do you remember what Amari Stoudemire did in that run in the playoffs?
When he punched the fire hydrant?
That's right.
And broke the glass and was never good again?
That's right.
Oh, I might remember that, Errol. I might remember that.
I remember.
Circling it back to the Sixers, though.
I remember.
Remember before they hired Leon Rose, too, they were going after Elton Brand, which I think, who was it? Matty Caps that really loved that idea. And Errol were like, no, do not do that.
Please.
Elton Brand's part of this front office that's paying Ben Simmons is Joel Embiid.
Oh, my God. Elton Brand does not know his ass from anything. I mean, that guy, He wasn't even that great.
Errol,
He's been there
he has a
forever.
Duke education, doesn't he? Isn't
Yes,
that a
he's
Duke?
Yeah,
That's Duke.
I know. It doesn't mean that I'm a big fan of Elton Brand. Okay.
Fish, John Shire is also from Duke, and he doesn't like John Shire.
But you make a good point. So I got one thing to say about Embiid, and I mentioned this to some. I don't remember who it was on Radio Row.
By the way, so you know.
That's fair. He was a very hateable person, but I loved Duke as well. Embiid, absolutely. James Parrish, crybaby Embiid. I completely agree. This guy, he is a dangerous player. I mean, everyone's played with sports with guys like this that are just reckless with their elbows, that flail their arms, that have too long of a backswing, that do things, that tackle, lead with their head, that are dirty with low blows. Everyone knows somebody and has had to fight somebody or compete with somebody like this. That's Joel Embiid in the NBA. He was so violent in that series with the Knicks. I have no sympathy for how bad that season is for this 76ers team this year. He intentionally injured Mitchell Robinson by grabbing his ankles. I don't give a shit. This is karma, bro. This is what you get if this is your best guy and he's a little baby. And he's so talented. But he's a dangerous player. I would hate playing against a guy that's that massive, and he could just wail his arm and knock you into left next Sunday. And he goes, "What? I didn't do anything." And then, because he's so good, he has to get more calls. Screw that. That guy deserves the karma that he's getting for having this. And if you're gonna blame the competing in the Olympics, I mean, what are you even doing? You didn't have to compete in the Olympics. You didn't have to do that. He barely played. Well, the practices. You had to practice. Look who it sounds like we're talking about. Another Philadelphia 76ers legend. With the practicing.
He's
so I don't know. He's not only selfish, he's bringing this franchise down.
By the way, I have the game on. Luka looks weird with a Lakers uniform. It just looks.
It's gonna take a while. It's gonna take a while.
It looks weird, man. It definitely looks weird. But I'm gonna tell you this right now. This is. Right now it's 16-11 right now. What the Lakers are.
LeBron's not playing today, right?
No, he's playing. He's playing.
Oh, he is. So they're both playing together. Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
All right.
It's gonna take a little while.
I got 20-11 here.
Wow. So you're ahead of. Since it's out on the West Coast, I guess that's
no. What it is with the stick. It's about a couple.
Oh yeah, you got the delay. Yeah.
It's about a minute delay, but nevertheless, I mean. LeBron and Luka, that's ridiculous.
LeBron wore a 77 shooting shirt for pregame.
Oh my god, it makes me sick.
Oh, they're already best friends, Errol. Doesn't it make you so happy?
Dude, it just makes me sick. I mean, why do the Lakers get everything that every time? It gets me so angry that the NBA allows this. It's just as horrible. This is not good for the league. But you want to know something? I just want to see Luka shove it down the Mavericks' friggin' throats. I really do. I want to see. I hope they meet in the playoffs.
He's going to murder them. He might try to go for 100. They might let him.
I don't know, but the fans are not going to be booing him. That's for sure. Because this is not his fault. He never forced his way out of there. No. He never forced his way out of there. He wanted to be a Dallas Maverick for life. The Mavericks decided to toss him away. And I'm shocked. Dude, that's the worst trade. That's going to go down as maybe the worst trade in NBA history. I'm telling you right now, if this guy finds a way to win with LeBron James, I'm telling you right now, Dallas Mavericks.
I don't think anyone that good's ever been traded. Has anyone as good as that?
In the prime.
It was the first time ever that two got traded for each other. Luka was the first one since Kareem since 1975 to average over 28 points and get traded. And then MVP to lead scoring and play for two different teams in one season. It just keeps getting worse as they bring out more stats.
Dude,
he's
25 years old, too. He's not even 26.
You don't trade a 32-year-old for a 25-year-old. You just don't do it.
Doesn't make sense.
You just don't do it.
None of it makes sense. Dude, I'm telling you. There's something the NBA is in cahoots with this. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. I don't care what anybody says. I've been arguing with Keith. Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is just as good as Luke. No, he's not. He's not. What are you guys drinking? Anybody that's trying to argue that point, it's not even close. No. It's disrespectful for Luka Doncic that you're even comparing Anthony Davis to him. Dude, Luka automatically, if he were to retire right now, he's a Hall of Famer. Okay. His numbers are historic in the playoffs. Historic. Not even Michael Jordan has better all-around numbers than him. Okay. It's ridiculous. So, whatever. I'm done. All right, ladies and gentlemen, our final segment of the night is What's That Smell?
Hold on. What is that smell? What's that smell?
Wow. You don't see that every day.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, our final segment of the night, and I know everybody loves it. We got all the guys in here. So we're going to go tonight. We're going to go fish. Tommy, you want to go first? Jabba, you want to go first?
I'm about to die right now.
All right, Jabba, you go first. Fish, you go second. Tommy, Owen, Speedy, me. Here we go.
All right, as it says Dookie in the thing, I don't know, I got some stomach bug. I'm going to the toilet for the 11th time right now, so what's that smell? That'd be my butt. I'll be back.
Tommy, I don't think even you went 11 times.
I didn't.
I don't think Jabba actually sits on the bowl for an hour, okay, like Tommy does. That's why he's no more Tommy Scoops. It's Tommy Poops.
Tommy Poops.
Tommy Poops. Courtesy from the old Goodster himself.
Well, I know Tommy Poops and I both enjoyed Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl halftime performance. If you don't follow it that closely, you may not have understood most of the references that he made. But I'll give you the shorthand. He hates Drake, and he made fun of Drake the entire performance. And he did things that people did not expect him to come out and sing the exact verse that he did from Not Like Us that says that Drake is basically a pedophile and likes minors. Well, that's what Kendrick said, and he wore a necklace that was an A minor necklace chain while he was doing it, which was incredible. And also called him out for suing him. Not him, but his label for promoting him, which is ridiculous thing to do because it's also the same label that Drake is on. I don't think anyone's ever done that in the history of music before. There were more like Serena Williams crip walking on the stage because she keeps getting trash from Drake in his songs because they dated once upon a time. It goes on and on. It was hilarious that he decided to.
I didn't even see Serena Williams
to do that.
She's
there near the end.
I didn't pay attention.
She's there near the end on the stage, and then it comes together at the end with your buddy Errol, DJ Mustard, coming in and bringing the house down.
I don't understand that.
Turn the TV off.
I gotta ask Mustard when I get a chance.
Tell him to turn it off.
How are you working with Drake and you're friends with Kendrick? That doesn't make any sense. I don't get it.
Because he wants money. But listen, I'll say this: Drake, what a bad year for you. You picked, as Kendrick said at the beginning, you did the right thing, but you picked the wrong guy. Kendrick wins, fatality, flawless victory. Smells like winning.
Winning, yeah. I mean,
God, does it actually smell winning? If it did, I'm definitely not going to win. So, anyways, here we go.
Well, speaking of winning, of course, yesterday we witnessed the Philadelphia Eagles winning the Super Bowl, but I found it kind of funny with Nick Foles taking a shot at Tom Brady. You know, it's more of a friendlier shot, sort of playful. He went to Twitter to say it's really cool that Tom Brady got to be there for the Eagles' 2 Super Bowl wins. He might be their good luck charm. Now, spoken like a true Eagle, you know, taking shots at Tom Brady, but as a Tom Brady hater, you know, you love to see it, but hate to see the Philly is victorious in the Super Bowl. So what does it smell like? It smells like some cheesesteaks with some from under cheese from under my nuts. So there you go. That's
How
what we're working
wonderful. I think Owen likes that one. Yeah.
You like that one, Owen?
Yes.
Yep. All right. Mine. Have you guys watched the playoffs the last couple of years where Travis Kelce's kind of being a tough guy? He's throwing away the kick stand of Tucker. He's getting in people's faces. He's pushing people, never getting called for penalties and acting like the tough guy after every game. He's saying how much better they are than everybody else. Well, did you see him after they lost? Tears, crying.
Yes.
Couldn't get his emotion off his face. Was acting like a baby back.
And we didn't
Not
see Taylor
appropriate for
Swift
the rest.
either, by the way. We
couldn't see Taylor Swift because they were too busy showing Travis Kelce's tears after they lost. Like they haven't already won 2 Super Bowls, 3 Super Bowls together. But it smells like baby wipes with some dirty diarrhea baby poo on it.
Oh,
because he's acting like just a crybaby, and it's just pathetic. You can't act like the tough guy. Can't act like the tough guy and then go out crying.
What are you guys trying to get me sick tonight?
To be exact, they showed Taylor Swift for one time for 7 seconds. To be exact, so that's a record right there.
They only did that because they were losing. If they were winning, she'd be jumping
couldn't-
around, and they would have been videotaping her. Probably pissing in the back room.
They couldn't figure out a better time to stick her in the camera besides just 7 seconds throughout a whole broadcast.
Oh man.
Java, you're up, I believe.
What?
No, he went already. You
Yeah, I went.
Oh, okay. All right. So
He
I'm
went
gonna-
and then he went.
I didn't have to try hard. Trust me.
Fair enough. So yeah, I'm going to go with a trendy topic that a lot of people were tweeting about during the Super Bowl, which was the basic looking 20 years ago technology scoreboard that Fox Sports decided to debut for the Super Bowl in 2025. It looked like something that I could have designed in Microsoft Word in a table in second grade, just filling KC, filling Philadelphia with green text. We look at all these illustrious graphics we have for our show and all the thumbnails that we have on YouTube that are far more advanced than anything they put together. So what does that smell like? It smells like the smoke coming from the explosion of the corroded hard drive of the Windows 98 computer used to make that.
Oh. What's wrong with you guys tonight?
Someone said they spent $300 million on Tom Brady. That Fox only had like $25 left to make a new score bug.
Yeah, to buy a
that's
computer.
exactly
That's probably the price of the
I like
computer they used to make it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, my What's That Smell goes to the great Kevin Durant as he addressed the trade deadline future of his son's career. And he says, everybody is bought and sold in this league. Well, if they're bought and sold in this league, why weren't you bought? Or why weren't you sold at the trade deadline? I know, because you're too busy on Twitter sending out tweets that aren't you. I have no idea what Kevin Durant is saying. And he says everybody's bought and sold. Well, you were bought and sold quite a few times. And by the way, the only time you won was when you were sold or signed with the Golden State Warriors and decided to buy your way to a championship. So you know what that smells like? It smells like that 24-hour urine that somebody pisses in, and you have to sit. It sits for about 24 hours. Boy, by the way, that's a terrible smell. So I guess that's what it smells like. By the way, Kevin Durant, the things that this guy says, I wonder if this guy really is, all there in his brain. I know his mother is she's like a doctor. I mean, she's got her doctorate. She's a smart woman. This guy went to Texas. I wonder if this guy actually graduated from school, because this guy has no brains whatsoever. And he lies about everything.
Maybe he's on the Kyrie Irving education.
To say that everybody is bought and sold in this league, yeah, it's true. And you're the one that has everybody saying that. So, because you're the one that hides everything on Twitter. So
let's not forget FanDuel betting analyst Kevin Durant too.
I don't even know I don't know what's going on with this guy. So I think that the NBA is out of all the sports, they are the most prima donnas when it comes to sports. They really are. They're all over social media, yapping their mouths, and then they're screwing around with all these Instagram models, and they're pregnating them, and they have no control over their sex problems after that. So I don't know. Kevin Durant. I will say this, Kevin Durant hasn't been in those troubles. So I haven't heard anything with Kevin Durant sleeping with these Instagram models, but who knows? Maybe he has like 6 or 7 babies' moms and he's just paying them off.
Maybe
he has made enough money.
Too.
He's made a lot of money. How much is Kevin Durant actually have? I mean, what is he worth? I'd like to know, because he's got to be worth a lot of money.
Forbes has it as 99.9 million.
He's got more than that.
I've got 300 million on
300 million.
net worth.
300 million. I think he's worth about 300 million. So could you imagine having $300 million? I couldn't. I mean, I don't know what I would do with that. So, I mean, Kevin Durant, he's a businessman. Anyways, That's it for our show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to Kenny Rosenthal for joining us. It was a great interview. He gave us about 18 minutes, and we really appreciate it. I know he had only 15 minutes. He gave us an extra 3 minutes. So we thank you, Kenny, for giving us all that. Thank you to Ice Shaker, obviously, as a sponsor. Thank you, Chris. I hope you're going to enjoy all the posts that we have on social media moving forward in the next couple of days on sponsors and stuff that we've been doing over there at New Orleans in the Super Bowl 59. So thank you to him, and thank you to the Gronks. And thank you to the fans. Thank you for all the guys and girls and kids that are listening to the show on all the platforms. We really appreciate you guys. We will be back on Wednesday, and guess who we have, Speedy? I just saw the post.
Yes. So, Fish, it's funny. We were just talking about this guy as one of our ex-Panthers gets. And now he would play with the Ravens this season. Is Chris Wormley returning to the show at 8:30?
Chris Wormley is going to be joining us. So that'll be interesting. He just sent us a message. So we're going to be very excited. By the way, Jeff Nelson.
I just saw his message. Yeah.
He wrote to us as well.
Yeah. So we'll see if we can get him next week. Maybe.
Yeah. Jeff Nelson wants to come on. So that'll be fun too. Jeff, Jabba, you know Jeff. He's one of the great relief pitchers of the Yankees in the 90s. It was a big part of the 96 championship. So we're very excited to get Jeff on the show. I've been following him. He's been following me all over social media for years, and we never got him on the show. And Speedy reached out to him, and we finally got the right time to get him on the show. So we'll have Jeff Nelson on soon too, as well. We'll be back on Wednesday. So good night. Farewell. Goodbye.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.